Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Is that correct?
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the recovery addict live stream in their court.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case. Dati Anglican Praise Service Latino.
Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Oh, she found out.
All right, everybody, welcome. Come on in, please be seated. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict. Thank you so much for being here.
That is not relevant.
Oh, good, I fit my box today. This is awesome. You know what? Hey, Siri, turn my lights purple. Siri's thinking. Give her a minute. There we go. Got some purple lights going. All right. Now we're all set up. Everything's good. Sorry, I had a little bit of a drama this morning with the county trying to get some permitting stuff in place. Oh yeah, it's good. I'm gonna need some help here today. First of all, I still have not fixed my camera. What is... Why can I not see right? There's like an inch of my screen that's missing, and I have no idea why. Man. Okay. One more day, I will just put up with it. I'll just hide behind the camera, then I can't see it. All right. Welcome especially to Mystic Mama. Mystic Mama, hi. How are you doing this morning? I see you're, good morning. It is good morning. It's a great morning for me, but it may not be as great for you because you were first in chat, and as penalties, punishment, prize for being first in chat, the internet is yours.
Let no dead horse go unbeaten.
That might seem like a good thing, but you are responsible for keeping everything internet related running worldwide. So congratulations on that, and good luck. It's been a little bit rough on and off for a few days. It's been actually yesterday was pretty good. I don't think we had any buffering issues or anything. So hope it goes well for you. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Let's do a quick roll call as we get ready for what may possibly be a long morning, because we are starting.
Correct.
We're starting. I would say we're restarting the timer where we left off. But after giving my child specific instructions to not close the timer because I can't edit to the time and then restart it again. He believed, little RA, cute little RA, believed that what I meant was not to start the timer. And so he closed the app, which resets it. And so our timer is set back to zeros. This is actually my view for the timers right now. We have 86 minutes on the clock from yesterday, and I'm just going to have to do the math and track it starting at 9 o'clock this morning. So that's how it's going to happen as it goes along. But we are going to be in verdict watch starting at 9 a.m. in the Parkland case, or the Florida versus Scot Peterson case. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see if they maybe made a decision last night and slept on it and then have a decision first thing in the morning or whatever. But we might open the phones up for phone calls later on. We might just have a good time as we're kicking back, taking it easy while we wait for the verdict to come in. Either way, let's do this. We're going to do a roll call first, of course. Mystic Mama, you are here first. Thank you for being
correct?
Here. KR is here. Oh, guess what's fixed? Okay, I'm not going to complain about the window being gone, but my messages are working now. They're not doing their weird double right click thing. So KR, Stacy, Michael, Haley's comment is here. Jess Dawson, Kale Smith, good morning to you. Sharon McDonald, first mod in chat. Mystic Mama, got you there. Sharon, Ohio Lisa, Stacy McDonald, Sharon McDonald, sorry, Stacy. I mixed those two up. Stacy with the butterflies. Nope. And it just fast forwarded and I missed everybody. How about we have everyone raise their hands for roll call? That would be a little bit easier. So as soon as you hear this, go ahead and type, put an emoji, raise your hand in chat. And we'll start there and move on down. Maybe a car chase to fill in the waiting the time. Angie, good morning, Ann. Therapy, Jack O'Forey, good morning. Kimbers, Ohio, Eva. Is it Lanham? Eva Lanham? Or is that an I? This is my problem. I'm not sure if this is a capital I or a lowercase l. I think it's a lowercase l. Eva Lanham, welcome. Lisa, I cannot say your name. Havlicek. Red Pen, John Link. Here's the problem. I haven't done roll call in so long. I'm out of practice. And I also have no water, so I can't hydrate. Okay, we're going to give it a try anyway. I need to do this. I just have to push through. Denise Feldman Ersland is here. Lewis Cox, be kind. Welcome. Debbie Wilson, Selena K. Twubble is here. Mandy Wright, sorry, dropped the R. Pauline, Katrina, Tammy Coleman, Ashley Peugeot, is it French? Peugeot. Evangeline Light, Sharon Deebs, Grace is here. Grace Sanchez, Ace of Swords, Cindy Lou, Gordon, Clone Girl, Hippie Chick is here. Good to see you again, Hippie Chick. Hope S, Michael, Kelly, 3 kids, Jean Daughtry, Mary Murphy is here. Rudy Patootie, hello Rudy. Rhoda McCaw, Tracy Ames, Ackelburn. That's a new name for me. Did you change your name, or did you, or have I just forgotten it? Welcome, by the way. Good to have you here. Mayla's mom is here. Peter Steele, Backwoods Nation. I am Omni 008. Elfried Rosler. Holly is here. Sharon Abbey. 2 Sharons. Very cool. Whimsical Druid is here. Erica 843. Andrielle Hillis. Mom, grandma / great grandma is here. Glad to be here, Mom. Wonderful. Nancy Bow. Rosie Gia 1. 307 Miss Troy. Jackie Jacks, welcome. Lindy's here. Sandy, JR, EPTX as well. It's Marissa is here. Taz 2482. Cheryl Muller, good morning. Maggie Carr, Mammy P, Vicky Potts, good morning. ZTA and everyone, welcome. Professor Phil Bell is here. Welcome. Good to have you here. Angela Angelo, VC, MT, Linda Jernigan. Scrolled too far. Here we go. Good morning, everyone, and Recovery Addict. JM, good morning to you as well. Jean Rano, Distilled Illusion, Marilyn Skoll, Rev Minister, Angela Angelo, Tiffany Lehan. Alfred Rosler, Gwen's Teddy is here. Carol Cottle, the Jenny Sunshine. Barbara Farthing, good morning, friends. Hope you get a verdict today. I hope so as well. 75% of us thought that there would be a verdict today, so I think it'll happen. 307 Miss Troy. Lydia, Song Chef is here. Sharon McDonald, Katrina, Chris Carroll. Have an easy day. Shears Wag, Yo is here. Judy, Baby Bear's in the house. Nisha Coleman. All right, good morning.
Is that correct?
It's correct. It's a good morning. It's not quite a Wednesday. Can't quite get the yell out of me for a Wednesday morning, but hump day is coming. Red Pen, Lydia's here. Nikki Zeebs. Let's see. I'm here apparently. Sharon Abbey, Lisa Havlicek. Thank you, Lisa. You've told me.
I'm not a camel.
You told me several times, and every time I forget. Havlicek. I'll try to remember that one again. Chandra, Lydia. I am Omni 008. Vicky Potts. Hope it's a quick verdict. We're already about an hour and a half into it. So we'll see. Amy H51, Jen Pokey, Nancy Bow.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
Maisla, Golden Girl, JM, taking a seat. Sarah Sunshine Sarah, sorry, mix those two up. Tipsy Tracy, Annie Marie, Golden Girl, Brett Heen. Lisa is in the house. Pie Lisa. Sore Throats here. Good morning. Britta Aller, Red Pen.
Alex Stollett.
KR, Lisa Faltersack. I think I got most of the hands here. Joanne Richards, Screams with Sam. Radioactive is here. Sharon Abbey, good morning, everyone. One of the few times you all will actually see me here in the morning, especially this early. We are glad. We are honored to be in your presence, Sharon. Thank you for being here. Good morning, Nisha Coleman. KH in South Carolina is here as well. Radioactive, awesome screen name. Yes, you guys are super creative on your names. I love some of these. Ashley, Christy G. Ritz is here, correct. Ashley again. There's Christy G again. Whoa, repeated. Sharon Abbey. Thomas is here. Jack Ofori. I'm watching this mistress and child murder trial from Texas on law and crime openings on First Witness on yesterday while waiting for a verdict. Mammy P. Tim de Moranville. Beth Martini. Let's see, Rudy Patootie. I think I got most of the hands there. I think we're almost good. Tim Moranville, Pi Lisa, I got you. Me, I am Omni. Omi, I put Omni in there. I put the N every single time. Omni. I am Omi. Omi. It's pretty simple. I don't know why I mess it up every time. Vicky Hooser, see you there. Studio Vlog channel. In Australia. Good morning to you. Welcome to the studio. I'll have to check out your studio vlog. Hope you feel better. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling sleepy. Is the thing. I feel like I have not yet woken up.
Because he's
whoa. We have a birthday. It's my birthday, says Alley Cat. Alley Cat, congratulations. Thank you very much for being here on your birthday. Happy trip around the sun. Glad we can celebrate that with you today. We'll have to play the music here in a minute. Let's see if there's anybody else who has a birthday. There is a BK thing today to do. I'm not sure it's going to be televised. Has the judge made the decision on the televised? He said he was going to, and then he just didn't. I'm still waiting for that. Could you possibly recap what happened with juror number 3? I missed it yesterday. I sure will. Juror number 3 probably knows by now what happened, even though she was not told in court, which is sort of funny. Let's see. It's my hub's birthday. Call him Mr. Penn. Okay, so Mr. Penn, Alley Cat. If there's any more, I'm going to have to write them down. Let's see. Mandy Wright's daughter. Let's see. Anybody else? I think. Yes, it's televised. Okay, we'll see if we can watch that. Cameras for now, but it's his discretion. Okay, but I missed that. That must have happened while I was off on vacation. Cameras are okay for now. I hate that he's like holding that over our heads. Let's see. Jenja and Pookie as well. Okay, so now we've got 3 people, and now I need to find a paper because I'm not going to remember. Let's see. What is this? Let's see. Request for approval. Judge's proposed order. Hereby request approval to audio video record. Ah, yes, I can use this. This is what I fill out to send to court to get permission to be in the press pool. Okay, so we have Alley Cat. I've already missed the second one. Jenja and Pookie. And now I missed the second. What's the middle one? Mr. Penn. Did we get anyone else's name? Did I miss anyone else with a birthday? Genesis. Okay, the daughter's name is Genesis. Oh, so cameras but not live? Oh, that's not as fun. All right, as a lefty, so who was a lefty? Guess what? I was a righty and a lefty. And then my brother broke my right arm. And that made the decision for me. As of yesterday, they are seeking the death penalty. I did see that. Oops, that's the wrong song. It's a nice song, but it's not the song we need. We need this one over here. Okay. Okay, here we go. I'm not sure if I can fill these names in. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Alley Cat, Jenja, Pookie, Mr. Penn, and Genesis. Happy birthday to you. There we go. That was my best bet. That was my best effort of getting 4 names in it. Happy birthday. Saw a painting of Mary and William. Okay. I'm going to start this over, Shannon. Saw a painting of Mary of William and Mary College, and you were right. Oh my goodness. Somewhere there are my ancestors, but I don't claim those too, gracious. They were very fancily dressed, and the wigs were fancy, but their particular features were interesting. Maybe not captured well by the artist. Sunshine Sarah, my birthday too. Sorry, include you. Happy birthday, Sunshine Sarah, as the song's still going. I think that counts. Happy birthday to you as well. That's wonderful. All right. My daughter's 29th today. Lots of birthdays. Happy birthday to all. Seriously, that is awesome. Some days we have no birthdays, and some days we have a lot of birthdays. And today happens to be one of those days. June 27th. Special day for many people. All right. Here's where we are with the case. We are approaching, I think we're 6 minutes away from court sort of starting officially. Why is that up there? I'm not even sure what it is. Let's see. The phone is ringing. Let's see who it is. It is not answering. It just dropped it. Okay, sorry, whoever that was who was calling. Could have been a really cool spam call that we could have fun with, but they hung up. Okay, let's see. This is... Oh, this is, for some reason, I've got the witness list for Scot Peterson pulled up on my screen. I don't need that anymore. Let's close that one down. Let's close this one down. This is not the window we need. There's a nice little ad. Okay, we're going to go back here. Sorry, guys. We're trying to get everything caught up. There we go. Upcoming. Okay, so that one's pulled up. That one's ready. We're going to go, let's see. All right. Love to listen when you get spam calls. Well, hopefully we'll get some spam calls today. I need to sort of think up some new ideas for what to say during the spam call. It's always new to the caller, but I've done the same things over and over. Let's see. Lately, the calls I've been getting have been relating to a property I do not own in a state I do not live in. But they've been offering to buy it from me, and I've been saying, hey, if you want to buy it from me, I'll take your money. I'll do it. I'll give you deed to everything I own at that address. So maybe we'll see if we can get a deal where I can get some free money for an address I do not have responsibility for. Is that illegal? If I word it correctly, I'm just saying, hey, anything I do have at that address will be yours for this amount. Might need to consult legal advice before I do that. I like messing with solicitors. That's good. Are we in Verdict Watch? We are in Verdict Watch. We are 86 minutes in, and as of right now, nope, we've got 3 minutes. Sorry. We've got 3 minutes. So we're not going to start the counter again for 3 more minutes. Super source. So the counter is for today's time. We're going to add the 86 minutes from yesterday, anytime we want to see the total. Is Aria's volume a little low? It may be. Is that a little better? I turned up just a tiny bit. Turn the microphone so it's pointed at me. Let's see. City Morgue, you kill him, we chill him. That's a good one, Lydia. We can do a cool tour. We need to wait for 2 minutes because if I start the tour, I'm going to forget to start the timer, and I can't miss to start the timer. We know that at 9 a.m. Sharp, the jury is going to be instructed to start deliberating. The verdict poll results were from yesterday, Mr. Mann. We had, I think it was 65% not guilty, then 17 and 15% guilty or guilty of lesser includeds, and then the balance were hung jury. Test 1, 2, check 1, 2. The audio is a little quiet. Test 1, 2, check 1, 2. Is that a little better? I cranked it up about 3 decibels. Did you think we'll hear the defense's proffer this morning? I don't know if the defense's proffer is going to come in at all. I thought the judge said he was going to allow it, but it didn't happen. Kansas is here.
Is that correct?
Welcome, Kansas. Oh, wow, that turns up everything. The whole trial makes me sick. Mandy, right, we're going to talk about that a little bit, honestly. My wife and I, Mrs. Ari and I, have had quite a few conversations regarding this. And honestly, it really boils down to why when I look at this trial, why when I look at the Scot Peterson trial, do I think this is wrong to prosecute? And why when I look at Uvalde, do I look at that and say, these guys need to be prosecuted? Why? mentally, how do we justify that in our heads? What's the principle behind it? Because I think everything we do should be principle based. Why do we think why do we feel that Evaldi was different, and that there's something should be done there? And here in Scot Peterson's case, prosecuting just doesn't feel right. I realize some of you feel that the prosecuting is right here and that he's guilty, and that's okay. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. Let's see, we've got 15 seconds, and we're going to start the timer. The jury's getting their stopwatches out. They're getting ready to order their lunch or something. Let's see, 8, 7, 6, 5. This is the actual time, even though it's delayed for you. 2, 1. Okay, so now our timer is running. Box source 2 is going to be 4. So this is what we have here on the timer. This is today's deliberation time only. So it's not including what happened yesterday. So we'll have to add 86 minutes to that anytime we want the total count. Well, that happened with juror number 3. Great question. Juror number 3 was there for the entire trial. Okay, she did not know anything happened with her. We do know it's a her. What happened was at the end of the trial, right before the rebuttal. Actually, I think it was right before the rebuttal by the state. The state, after the break, came back and said, Your Honor, there's something you need to talk about outside of the presence of the jury. We've been informed that juror number 3 has had a conversation with one of our victim advocates. And as we were digging into that a little bit, we discovered that her involvement in the Parkland case, the penalty phase of the Parkland case, the actual penalty phase of the shooter's trial, was much greater than we were led to believe.
Bree. To accept.
Hey, Bree, this is Recovery Addict. How are you doing?
Good morning. Every time you're on anymore, I'm driving to work, so I can't just chat you. But as I was driving home last night, you made me think of something hysterical. So, I found you after Murdaugh. Mm-hmm. So I may have watched Emily Baker during the Murdaugh trial, and you were talking about yeeting yesterday.
Yes.
And I just want you know, I laughed so hard during your commentary about that because I'd never heard that either. She kept talking about that investigator. She goes, so what did he do? Did he yeet the phone all over the place? Did he yeet it over here? Did he yeet it over there? And she just kept making fun of how he would just randomly throw it around for analysis, and I'd never heard of that word.
It's a hip word.
Like until her.
It's a young kid's word, and I feel young when I use it. But
yeah. But I just laughed yesterday when it got mentioned again. I was like, this word's going to haunt me forever now.
Yep. Well, that is awesome, Bree. How long's your commute to work?
About 20, 25 minutes. I live in Santa Fe, so I drive into Albuquerque every day. So
Santa Fe to Albuquerque. So
it makes my time go by really great when you guys are there talking and I catch you on when I'm driving.
That is awesome. Well, hopefully you get to catch a little bit while you're at work too. Sneak it in while the boss doesn't pay attention.
Oh,
so
100%. Trust me. I found myself, they always think I'm on conference calls, and I'm like, nope, I'm just listening to trials. It's okay.
You're like, I'm not going to be available for that conference call. I've got something going on. We're in verdict watch. You guys know what that means. Well, Bree, that's awesome. Drive safe. Have a great day at work. Thanks for calling in, and don't yeet yourself here or there or anywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to hear from you. Bye-bye. All right. So juror number 3, thanks, by the way, for the phone call, Bree. Juror number 3, against the judge's orders, because the judges told him you can't talk to anyone about the case. You can't.
Is that correct? You
can't research. You can't do anything, right? You can't get any information or talk to anyone and share information or listen to information. You can't even be in a conversation with someone where they're telling you something about the case as a juror. You have to limit your knowledge about the case to what happens in the courtroom and what's presented, through while you're in the jury box as evidence. Apparently, that didn't happen, because there was a conversation that was somewhat case-related with this victim advocate. And in the state's duty to figure out what was going on and divulge it to the court, they found out that there was more than just that she had been involved in and had participated in, attended the entire penalty phase of the trial for Parkland. Now, that itself is not illegal. It's not wrong. But it seems that possibly in the questionnaires that the defense was asking, even though they were aware that she had some involvement there, that she had let on that it was lesser, to a lesser degree than what it actually was. So her involvement being much higher than what it had led to believe, as well as her conversation with someone who's related, who's connected to the prosecution side of the case, that's a big no-no. And so the prosecution presented that to the judge, said, here's where it's at. So the judge turns to the defense and like, well, what do you want to do about that? Because really it affects you. This is your client. This is his case. Is this fair? And they said the best thing to do was exclude her, kick her off the jury, because she was part of the main group, I believe, part of the main group. Or at least, I think they had already chosen the alternates. Maybe I'm wrong. She was just part of the pool. But when it came time for the judge to select alternates, he said, where's number 3? Where's number 8? Where's number, he found the alternates and said, you guys, guess what? Stay seated. Or actually, you guys go get your stuff out of the jury room. Get your dozen eggs, whatever it is you brought. And because you guys will be going home, and the rest of you the other 6 will be deliberating. So that's what happened with juror number 3. He never sanctioned her. He never pulled her aside and say, hey, I told you not to talk to people, and you did. What were you thinking? Okay. Never did that. And we were sort of expecting that a little bit, but yeah. Okay. The Uvalde officers must be feeling pretty nervous right now. They must be. It's, yeah. Lisa, Little Miss, I believe lie is probably not too strong of a word to use for juror number 3 because her answers were such that they were given with the intent to deceive. And my definition of lying is saying or doing, or not saying or doing something with the intent to deceive. And I think that she wanted to be on the jury and then answered selectively, possibly, to make that happen. And it turns out the judge said, you're out of here, as Mystic Mama says there. Okay, I feel like I'm on Emily D. Baker with all the heated. Emily D. Baker is awesome. She's fantastic. Okay, that was that question. Do we have any other questions here regarding that? Or something else? Go get your eggs and go pack up your eggs and go. Yep. I'd be curious to know for those who maybe are in a position where they can call, and I'd like to hear both opinions on both sides of this. But does anyone else feel like I do, or definitely feel not like I do, regarding prosecuting Scot Peterson, and why it feels right or feels wrong? I'd like to know why it feels that way for you. So let's open up the burner line. The burner phone is available right here. There it is right there. That will ring straight to me. Obviously, I have no secretary, and there's just one line. So we don't have the hold feature. I can't stack calls. I can't pre-screen calls. So I do ask that you guys be respectful and do the same thing on the burner phone as we would do in chat. Keep it sort of clean. This is sort of a family show, even though we talk about murder a lot. And just ask you to keep it respectful. Let's limit the politics and name calling to a 0. But do share your opinion. I'm not saying you can, prove me wrong or convince me, and I'm not trying to fight with you, but I do want to know and understand what you guys are thinking regarding this. So especially if you feel that it's right to prosecute Scot Peterson, I'd like to hear that as well. Let's see who we have first.
Mr. Butch.
Mr. Butch, is that what I heard? This is Recovery Addict. How are you doing?
Good. How's yourself? Hey, great show. I just found the show a few weeks ago when I got a smart TV instead of cable. My comment is on this whole situation is nobody knows what he was thinking. You can't do that. Secondly is, if he's the SRO, like he is, does that mean at football games between two teams, one of which is school or basketball or soccer or baseball, he's responsible for every single student for both teams, no matter who they are?
Yeah, that brings up an interesting question. The question of being a caregiver, right? That's the gist of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if I'm a security guard at a baseball game, I'm responsible somewhat for the people. But if you have another team playing your team, say you have 2,000 students there for the football game, there's no way you should have control over the other team's students, parents, friends, I just believe that's completely ludicrous, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whether he ran it or not, that's a situation where he has to think about it in his head. But from watching this trial, not only on your show but other shows, to think that if he didn't know where the shot was coming from, and if he really didn't, because the gentleman, I think his name was Greenlee, he heard 4 or 5 shots come from inside building 12. He was right with Scott. They said, hey, by the way, Scott, they're coming from this building. Now, I would use the word idiot that seen him walk in the building with a gun bag or a bag like that and didn't tell nobody, that's the person who should be prosecuted.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Butch. I appreciate that take. We'll see if we have a couple other opinions that we can weigh in on and be more informed on. But I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the call.
I thank you so much for having a program.
Awesome.
You appreciate
it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so here's a comment that just jumped out at me. CW says, RA, Scott Peterson had no idea where NC was. No long gun or vest. Evoldi little school vests. Evoldi little school vests, long gun, and can't be compared. So the facts are different enough that they can't be.
To accept.
Hey, this is Recovery Addict. You might have to turn your volume down. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with the last poet.
Last poet? Good to hear from you again.
Yes,
How are you
sir. Doing? Pretty good. In regard to this trial.
Mm-hmm. You might have to turn your volume down because we're hearing an echo from your TV.
Okay. In regard to this trial, I started out thinking he was guilty and that he should have been taken over to Coles. Mm-hmm. But watching the entire trial and listening to everything and watching you and everything that everybody else has said, I've changed my mind and I now find him not guilty. I say maybe he's a coward, but he's not guilty.
Okay. Let me sort of play devil's advocate a little bit with you, last poet. As a parent who's dropped your kids off at a public school before, we are in the U.S. Most states there's compulsory education, right? You're required to educate your kids, and most parents use the public school system to do that. So if you get arrested, you can get arrested if you don't take your kid to school. But in taking your kid to school, there's an expectation when you drop them off that they're going to be safe at school. Right, so there's the whole in local parentis idea that there's a new parental figure or somebody who's going to take over and keep them safe as you would. Well, they are outside of your custody; they're in the school's custody at that time. There should be someone that's responsible for their safety to some degree, right?
I agree. That would be everybody that works at that school.
But does that fall on the officer at all? Is there some level of responsibility there?
Well, yes, it does. But in this case here, it's a maniac came to the school with a gun and started killing people. Yeah. And he ended up killing 17 people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this guy did what he could. I at the beginning of the trial, I thought he was guilty, and now I find him innocent or not guilty. So because of everything that I saw.
Yeah, I'm with you. Honestly, I'm on the same page. I have a hard time saying I could sleep well committing this guy to prison for what he did.
He may be a coward because he didn't go up in there and face that guy with a pistol and try to kill him. But you can't really say that. He did what he could.
Yeah. Last poet, thank you so much. Good to hear from you again. Appreciate you being
here. Yes, sir. Always good to talk to you.
Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, so one of the words that came up when my wife and I were talking about this was the word responsibility. And if you break the word down, responsibility, it's the ability to respond to the incident. Hey, Mrs. R.A., how are you doing? We might get to hear from Mrs. R.A. a little bit today. And she's got a hot take, so I hope we get to. The ability to respond, the responsibility, was not the same, I believe, for Scot Peterson as it was for the officers in Uvalde. They literally were in the school, full lined up in their stack, all the equipment, everything they needed, with all the information as well. And their responsibility was much greater than Scot Peterson's responsibility regarding that. Mr. Are you going to chime in today? Yeah, but I need the headphones so I can. Okay, she's going to take my headphones so I can only hear her. So here we go. This is the great ear reveal.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know. I want to share what I'm thinking. Oh, someone's calling.
Call from
Here we go.
Selena K.
To accept, press 1.
Hi, Selena. How you doing?
Hi.
You've got the right number. This is a
Okay,
recovery addict. You might want to turn down your thing a little bit. I'm going to hand it over to Scott so you can talk to him.
Hey, Selena, Mrs. R.A. is going to give her quick take for just a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. I was going to call back. Sorry.
No, I'm going to turn your volume down just for a little bit, but as soon as she's done, I'm going to turn your volume back up. You'll just be on hold for a little bit. Is that all right? It won't be hold. You'll just hear her. Okay, 1 second.
Okay, he says quick. That wasn't for you guys. That was for me. He's telling me hurry up. Okay, so here's the thing. This is my thoughts are kind of a mess. I will say specific to this case, I do feel like he is not guilty. I think that Last Poet did an excellent job of articulating why that is. What I have really struggled with in this whole thing is that while the defense attorney is talking and he's saying, my client is not guilty and this is why, and it's because he didn't know what was going on, he didn't have good information, and therefore he couldn't have responded to it. All of that is true, but at the same time that he's saying that, he's also, sorry, he's also saying, now if he did know what was going on, he would be totally guilty. And I'm having a really hard time with that. I'm listening to it and thinking, is that true? If he knew what was going on, is he guilty? And I do not know all of the answers on this, but this is the thought process that I have followed to get to my point right here, is that we are trying to convict or charge somebody for an omission, for an act of omission, for failing to do something that they ought to do. And it is the job of the government and the court system to prosecute people who have committed a crime, who have done something wrong, not who have omitted a crime. And so, anyway, I put a lot of thought into this. I don't know how interesting it is to people, but I was just thinking that the ability to make the right choices, to not commit crimes of omission, does not fall within the government's auspices. It actually falls within the pillar of the religious community inside of America. That's the job of religion, to determine if you're going to commit or not commit things of omission. You know, so, okay, sorry, I'm not doing a good job explaining this. It is the strength that we have to be able to make good choices comes from living virtuous lives. And we're talking about a virtue here. We're saying, is he courageous? That's a virtue. And we're trying to determine, well, how courageous is he, or how cowardly is he, which is the opposite of courageous. And trying to define that just doesn't work in the government realm, because it's not a government thing. It is a religious thing to determine whether or not you're going to be courageous. Now, I don't want it to sound like I'm saying, so it's no big deal and it's everybody's choice and whatever. No, the truth is, we do need courage. It is absolutely required that we have courage. I'm just saying it is not the government's job to ensure that we have courage. And we know it's not, because as so many of you have said in chat, where does it end? It doesn't make any sense. Where's the line? Where's the logical limit to this idea of you're not courageous enough, you're not patient enough, you're not generous enough, you're not, pick a virtue enough. You can't judge somebody's internal workings and hold them accountable for that. That is not something that the government is responsible for. Now, as Scott was saying earlier, Uvalde had more ability to respond. They had more responsibility because they were in a position of power and authority and capability of doing something. And so they are a little bit different in that situation. I'm just saying, from the beginning, this court case has been really hard for me, because even though their argument is he didn't know what was going on and therefore he's innocent, and I think that's a great argument because it's true, I also think the other argument is also true. Even if he did, it's not the government's place to convict. Does that make sense?
Adam comes in with, I always disagree with Mrs. R.A. Adam, we love that you're here. That is awesome. I married up, if you guys cannot tell. I married up, and Mrs. R.A. is much more intellectual than myself. And she does great. Oh, she just bailed. I couldn't get a response. Here's what we're going to do. We've got Selena on the phone. Selena, turn up your volume now. Thank you for being patient while we put somebody else ahead of you when you called in. But what's on your mind today, Selena?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I'm calling in. I'm on the other side of the fence.
Okay.
Wonderful. On this.
You might have to turn your volume down because there's going to be a few second delay on YouTube.
Okay. All right. I feel like he needs to have some punishment. I feel like he did fail to act. Maybe. Okay, this is the thing that really keeps popping into the back of my head is after the shooting was done and the threat was gone and there was no shots being fired, he still didn't go in to render aid to the children that were injured. And that's where I have the biggest issue with, is that he did nothing at all, not even. And I've listened to the whole trial, and I agree with Mrs. R.A. that, we have to be careful how the government's, reach in our lives. But I think he should have done something. I don't believe he needs to definitely have life in prison. I'm more leaning towards the lesser offenses and get something though, but because I feel like I just can't stop thinking about the young man that laid there 40-something minutes, bleeding out, calling for help, calling his dad and saying goodbye. And I think at least go help, try to stop some bleeding. The threat for his life was over by then. But anyway, that's I know it's not popular in chat, but
no, it's a great opinion though, and I appreciate that. It's very. I think if I'm hearing you right, it's very telling to look at what Scot Peterson did after the shooting stopped and for how long he did it. To say we can use that to judge what he was really doing during the shooting as well, right? So his decision not to act when officers were going in and people were being pulled out, him still standing there. I have a little different take on that. I think that possibly at that point, because the teams had mobilized and the command structure on site was more in place and a plan was being executed. I think it's important to follow the plans and not just have everyone rush the building and in the chaos that could be very confusing. Even though it may have saved another kid's life if someone was bleeding out. I believe it would have been dangerous possibly to the law enforcement as well. But I do appreciate that opinion, and I can see exactly where you're coming from there.
Thank you. Yes, that's just the thing that just I can't let go of is that, absolutely nothing. But anyway, thanks. Have a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Selena. I appreciate that. Thanks for the call.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
I appreciate her calling in. And being patient as well. Ooh, perfect timing on the new call. Let's see where this is. Oh, I know who this is. This is Amber. Good morning, Amber. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing great. We're just here on Verdict Watch, hoping that something happens here soon.
I don't know. Usually when I call, something happens. So maybe we'll get lucky.
Well, we'll keep an eye on Twitter while you're on the phone, see what happens here.
Yeah. Because I can't do that at the same time because I'm also working, but don't tell anybody. So I had to kind of call in and give opinion, I guess, for what it's worth, 2 cents. I have a lot of thought on this. When it comes to what he did and or didn't do, look at the knowledge that he had. What really bothers me is how is it Scott's responsibility solely to say, patch the comms? When he's in that kind of situation. Now, understand, you never really know how you're going to react in any kind of situation. I work in medicine. Many of us in the chat work in medicine. We've been in some hairy situations, most of us at least. You don't know how you're going to react. I've had some colleagues that kind of freeze in a traumatic event. And trauma just isn't for them. They're more suited for like a specialty kind of thing. So it's not necessarily what he trained for. It may be not just the comms, but you don't know how you're going to react in these kinds of situations, no matter the training you've got, because personnel have training to handle trauma, right? Take CPR, for example. Every medical clinical person is trained and certified in CPR.
Yeah. Hey, Amber, I've got somebody calling from Parkland, Florida. Can I talk to you in a minute? Okay, thanks. Hold on 1 second.
Call from
Kevin Reichard, Parkland FL.
Hey, Kevin, this is Recovery Addicts. I saw you on the caller ID, and I hung up on Amber to take your call. Sorry, Amber. But, Kevin, thank you for calling. What's on your mind today?
Good morning. Good morning. Appreciate it. Been glad that I found your channel all along this week. Again, I've been watching all this stuff like a hawk. Long story short, I was an influencer and product reviewer in the firearms industry for a decade.
Okay.
And was actually training 3 miles away from the school at the Coral Springs Police Department with some officers on some stuff. But I was heavily involved in the training world, but also in the again, just firearms industry in general and social media, et cetera, creating content.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 daughters and a niece that started getting texts from as that day unfolded. So my history with this whole thing is firsthand. And what I'll tell people that they didn't see that I saw, just to get some imagery that wasn't portrayed much. And again, I know every one of those witnesses. My kids were involved in the drama department. I know the teachers. I know all that shit. And some of that testimony was real. Some of it was absolute bullshit. I mean, I have texts from my kids literally saying, "I wish this teacher would shut the fuck up. They don't. They're adding to the chaos."
Right.
And there they are on stand acting like they fucking had it all. Oh, I'm sorry for the language.
Yeah. Dial it back just a little bit. We got some kids listening.
You got it.
But go ahead.
I apologize. I get adult that way. So anyway, a lot of stuff here and there. But I'll never forget when it was all clear and parents were allowed to actually, go and get their kids. I'll never forget 2 sets of faces. One was I parked about a quarter mile away and was on text with my kids and on phone with my kids, and I was walking towards the school. And the kids' faces that were flooding past me to try to find their parents. That was the first set of faces I'll never forget. And then I reached my kids, big hug, turned around and started, I've got my kids. They are safe.
Right.
They have not been shot. They are not dead. We don't know what's going on in there. We had no idea on numbers or anything like that at the time. And I turned around with them, and the faces of the parents that were walking and running towards the school. I'll never forget it. And that just sticks out as we're sitting here thinking about this.
Yeah.
The closing argument, the one line that stuck out to me, she said, those kids got dropped off by their parents that day, saw him, and thought by every reasonable expectation that the guy with the badge and the gun would serve and protect and take care of their kids during that day. And we all did. Like, that's just a given. That's what you think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, I hosted something called Gun News Weekly for 5 years straight, up until about 3 weeks after the shooting. We stopped that show. But we covered everything. I was in Vegas weeks after the Vegas shooting. We covered all of the mass shootings. And then I was sitting there living in one. It was completely surreal. It really was. And then going to the funerals, writing a book, getting through it all. And you sit there and you look at all the things, and you're like, well, who's to blame? Who's to blame? And in the book, I break it down to, like, it's the FBI's to blame. Yeah. It's the local police departments that are to blame. It's the local teachers and kids that when in 6th grade they knew that this kid was an issue, didn't help, didn't offer to help. It's a huge compilation of things.
Yeah.
It's a huge compilation of things. However, I also, as a result of my position in the firearms industry, was invited to and did about 70 hours of active killer training in the months after the shooting. So I was invited to go and hang with the guys from Columbine. I was invited to go to Minnesota for 3 days and do a full interactive school shooting. They had actors, the whole thing. Like, I did a lot of it.
Yeah.
And the message is very simple. The overriding message on all of those classes and all of the training that any cop gets is you go to the sound and eliminate the threat. That's period. That is the basics. And the notion that this defense has been, I didn't know where the sound was coming from, therefore I'm going to stand here and wait, is, again, to me, it's preposterous.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to burn. At the same time, to think that there's no responsibility for the one person that could have mitigated. And again, no one expected him to go in there and be John Wick.
Right.
But just distracting the shooter could have saved one kid's life. Just being the presence there. Not to mention, you have a gun. You're the only one in there that can stop it. That whole, again, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Well, that's a real simple explanation of it, but that's the truth. That is nothing is going to stop that guy until, and again, I don't know what you all heard, but that video that they keep showing of the kids running out into the courtyard, my kids are two of those kids.
Yeah.
And if that hadn't been bulletproof glass and he hadn't jammed up the gun, he would have been shooting down on them for sure. That was the notion. That was what he was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, back to him, the actual case. Man, I know that there's a Supreme. So again, by my background as a host of a show dealing with guns,
you've done some research on this, I can tell.
100%. And again, the Supreme Court has ruled the officer does not have a responsibility to do shit.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't have a. They have a responsibility to clean
if
up.
If they were in custody, if they have arrested somebody, that changes. The officer has a responsibility to provide for or ensure the safety of someone who is like literally handcuffed in their custody, in their jail. Right. That's where the line, according to the Supreme Court, is drawn. Anyway,
why do you think that wasn't brought up by either of the defendant? I was curious as to why that wasn't brought up by the defense. By the way, because that's a real case.
I think that the issue was he had a contract with the school, and the school had spelled out some things that he had to do, and he was, provided certain equipment and expectation. I think that's where they're trying to get him, that he failed to perform under that contract, which was a...
Last point I'll point out is this, and again, this is me being personal, just having talking on the internet to some people, to some friends. The notion that he was this guy that cared about all the kids and was this awesome guy that took care of everybody, it's a joke. There's numerous stories about him turning the other cheek, looking the other way, not doing what he really should have done to resolve a problem. And again, I'm not going to get personal, but I can tell you firsthand that he's not this awesome dude that everyone says that the defense is claiming that he is. And I've mentioned it in the chat several times. You can look it up. He was working for Sheriff Israel. Sheriff Israel's kid assaulted another kid with a baseball bat in baseball practice, and nothing ever happened. Nothing. Think about that again.
Yeah, that's outside of my experience as far as the facts. I can't really comment on that, but it sounds like there's two sides to the coin as far as his character.
Yep, 100%.
Kevin, I appreciate your call. You're very passionate. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and time, and we're
appreciate everybody
grateful.
In the chat being so cool. You've got a great community here. Appreciate and love all y'all. Take care. Have a great day, and let's hope this gets resolved properly. Thanks.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thanks, Kevin. See you. Bye. Appreciate Kevin. He dialed it back when we asked him to. So sorry about the bad words. He's very passionate about that. You can understand he's been in very close proximity to that situation. Amber's calling back in, so we cut her off here. Just 1 second. Amber, thanks for being willing. Oh, hang on. Mrs. R.A. says something. No, we've got just the angle one, but I don't have a charger for it.
Hi, Mrs. R.A.
Hey, Amber, hang on. She says, hi, Mrs. R.A. I've got like the angle one, but it's not a palm one. It's this little tool that hammers. I don't know what it is. It's an automatic hammer. So yes, probably downstairs in the tools. It's in a bag, like a zippered bag or something. It's probably about yay big. Sorry, we're looking for a tool for working on the garage. Amber, how are you doing?
What's going? Hard to follow that call.
Kevin's got a lot of passion, a lot of information, obviously personal experience, which is hard.
I respect the passion, and I truly understand it, especially somebody being so close to the situation. But I'm going to give a little bit of insight here, because I agree and I disagree with certain points. So you have one guy that is supposed to be responsible for over 3,000 kids, if memory serves, for how many kids are there. Yes, that is an enormous task, and yes, he has a team. Is he the only one with a gun? Presumably, because that's so far what the evidence has shown. However, if there are conflicting statements or thoughts as to where things are coming from, and he's receiving one-sided communication, there is a problem there. Not having comms patched shouldn't have been solely his responsibility. Why couldn't dispatch have patched those comms? Because all of these calls were coming in to multiple places. So you have to think of being yourself in this kind of a high-stress situation where, are you really going to be thinking straight? I am one of those people who my stress level and situations is set aside, and I immediately go into that rescue recover mode. And I have been, but there are a lot who don't. They panic, they freeze, they try to get that communication out. Now, could he have done things differently? Sure, absolutely. But what information did he have to go off of to lead him down a different direction? And a lot of people are saying, why didn't he go in after the threat was, after Cruz had left the building? Well, a couple of things. This is multifold. When you have teams that are designated to go inside certain places and mitigate certain problems, you don't interrupt those things. Those specific tactics are designated to certain people, right? So if he's especially been the communications person that has been trying to help make sure things are being communicated effectively all around, I mean, what is he supposed to do? He's caught between a rock and a hard place. You're expecting one man to go run into a building, sure, and be a distraction. However, he's not sure if things are actually inside the building or coming from the football field. So
let me dial back. You mentioned a little bit about patching the calls, and why didn't he just, the defense or the prosecution said, why didn't he just call and say patch the calls? You're asking him in hindsight to make a decision based on something he didn't know. He didn't know the other channel had all the information. That would be like, if there was, I don't even know an example. It's like you showing up at a store at another store announcing there's a sale and saying, why didn't you buy it at the other place? It was cheaper because they announced it. The same time you were at this store, that store changed their prices. And why didn't you just find out and know that there was something else over there that was better? He couldn't have made that was an awful analogy. Sorry, guys, that was awful. But seriously, it was an unknown to him. In his world, everything that was happening was all that he knew. And the fact that lots of other stuff was happening somewhere else that could have helped him a lot was an unknown. So I don't put the responsibility for patching the calls on him. I would put that up with dispatch and the higher ups who did have knowledge of that both things were going on.
Right. What about the two sheriffs or the two chiefs between the two departments? It's not like they were ignorant to the events that were going on, for lack of a better term. So this guy is being held accountable for things that are way beyond his accountability realm. I want you to think of this analogy, and this is something we use in medicine a lot. You have a grease fire that moves to your curtains. Which disaster do you put out first? Which fire do you put out first? Do you put out the grease fire or do you go for the curtains? What disaster do you tackle first? So with the information that he had, do I think that he could have done certain things differently? Sure. But do I think it's criminally charged for negligence and all of this other stuff? No, I really personally don't. I feel like this particular instance should have set the tone, and did set the tone really, for where we need to actually focus on our weaknesses for situations like this, unfortunately, because they're so prevalent in today's society, which is really sad to say. However, this one really kind of set the tone because it was a very cool, and with Kevin's personal take on the officer himself, I mean, everybody has different opinions. I mean, he could have been loved by many and hated by several, and vice versa.
Right.
I mean, that goes hand in hand.
Very few people are universally loved. Even really good people. There's always someone that just they rub them the wrong way, or it's like I was the guy who got chastised and it should have been him. There's because of everyone's experiences, they're a little different. But I do believe there are people out there who think that that this officer is not the bee's knees, so to speak.
Right, and that's going to be the case anywhere you go. I mean, case in point is me, because I have several haters in chat, and that's okay. I respect everybody's opinion. And I don't chastise anybody, but I don't expect to be loved by everybody. I really don't. And I'm sure this guy doesn't either. Now, I can't say anything to his personal character as whether or not he thought of these kids as his own or not. I mean, that's really irrelevant in this particular instance. It really is. What his job was to do multiple things in this scenario. And he did what he could with the information that he had. And having that conflicting information, put yourself in these shoes. Granted, you don't have all of the sounds, you don't have the atmosphere, you don't have all of that to add to this hypothetical situation. Mm-hmm. But if you were in his shoes, which fire would you attack first? The grease fire or the curtains? Not having all of the information that we have on the outside looking in.
Right.
If all you had multiple reports of sounds coming from different locations, I mean, are you going to run back and forth trying to figure out what? I mean, I think if somebody trying.
I think it boils down to the officer had a bunch of choices, and they're on a spectrum of what could have been most effective. And looking back, we know which one was the right choice. Okay, or we know which one had the greatest likelihood, or statistically, or has been proven to in some environments to work, and some it didn't. But him running into the building with his gun probably had the greatest likelihood to at least disrupt the shooter. It also probably had the greatest likelihood of killing him. And so we're weighing the two as saying those were the two options: either run into the building or preserve your own life. But on that spectrum, there were other things to choose. There were all those kids coming out of the 700 building, which, as Kevin mentioned, had it not been bulletproof glass, had the gun not jammed, everything, they could have been sitting ducks from the second floor window, and just a whole pile of victims out there in the courtyard. So what he chose to do, what he did there with Mr. Greenleaf as well, was preserving those kids' lives, was saving those kids' lives, and so was it effective? Yes. Did it turn out to be necessary? No, because the windows, because timing, everything else, it wasn't. But it was a good decision. It just wasn't necessarily we've got like good, better, and best on this scale, and it may not have been the best one for specifically for the kids who died. And for the kids who were injured, there were other decisions that could have helped them more. But as long as what he was doing was in an effort to, and according to his belief, which I have a hard time getting in his head because we can't, he didn't testify in himself, but as long as what he was doing was in an effort to help preserve the lives of students, was to help the safety of students, I have a hard time prosecuting him and saying you could have done better. Thus, 97 years in jail.
Right. And that's the thing. And you pointed out the kids running out of the 700 building, but let's also flip this. Let's say he ran into the 1200 building. This guy, the perpetrator, now we know is Nicholas Cruz, but always supposed to be that +1 rule. So one guy with potentially 2 suspects with a firearm who appeared to be just like, for all intents and purposes, looks like a student. So which student do you point your gun at?
Right.
Which or do you point your gun at and accuse of causing this mayhem? So, I mean, as personal as this is, and you're talking to somebody who has actually been shot before and almost died. I've been shot in the face with a .357 hollow point at 3 years old. So I'm not ignorant to how guns work. I have a 9mm in my nightstand drawer that's locked that nobody can get to unless you have a fingerprint that matches the code. Mm-hmm. So I'm not ignorant of guns. I'm not anti-gun. And this conversation is going to bring up a lot of that gun control issue. And we've got to keep it focused on this one particular instance, right? So this one SRO is got mixed intel of who, what, when, and where, and you're expecting him to just run into a 3-story building housing how many students? 3,000? Was it 3,000 in that one building, or it couldn't have been 3,000?
It was. I think there was 600 to 1,000 in the 700 building. I don't know how many students. Probably several hundred in the 1,200 building.
Right. So one person up against possibly 2 shooters at the time, because you've got to remember we got to go in what he knows, right? Not what we've been presented with. Yeah. Because we're going to know a whole lot more than what he did at the time. So possibly 2 shooters that supposedly looks like a student, and you're expecting him to run in guns ablazing to save all of these students, but he doesn't know what student lookalike this is supposed to be.
Right.
So which tragedy do you want him to be held accountable for? I really think I understand where the prosecution is coming from, and they're trying to make an example of somebody, but this is the wrong situation in the wrong way. They're trying to make an example. This should have been more of a learning curve, and it has been, to teach everybody else where our misgivings are, where the faults and flaws are in the system and in the training. This shouldn't be one person's back, and he is not the only law enforcement officer that did not enter that building from the start to finish. Right. I will tell you that right. He is not the only one that did not enter that building at any point. So if he's and convicted, are we now going to charge everyone else that followed suit because they're just as culpable? I mean, you've got to really think of it. Which disaster do you attack first? The grease fire or the curtain fire?
And if you're attacking one, aren't you doing some good? Aren't you putting out the fire? Aren't you saving somebody's life? Are you, making the problem not as bad? Amber, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for your patience with getting cut off multiple times. But wonderful. Glad we got your thought in there.
It's all right. I'm here to help. I'll be in chat.
Awesome. We'll see you. Bye.
Call from
Allison.
Hey, Allison. This is Recovery Addict. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm very good. Oh my God, I'm calling from the UK. Hello, everyone. Figured out how to do it. Sorry to cut that call. I just wanted to check this works.
Mm-hmm.
But can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just great.
Brilliant.
What's on your mind?
Well, in regards to this thing, because obviously in the UK, we don't have guns. So it's a very different kind of perspective for us in the UK, if you know what I mean. But the difficulty I think a lot of us over here have is that that's one man responsible for 3,000 students. And I get he signed a contract. And I just feel from our perspective, it's not just me, there's quite a few people in the UK that feel the same, that you've got one man with a gun against a shooter. But what about Medina, who didn't tell him where the shooter was and was with him? And the fact that he called the code red and saved hundreds of lives. We know that crews couldn't get into the classrooms. And sadly, only a few children were shot and injured through the window rather than all the children, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel that he's kind of being thrown out to slaughter, and people kind of are breezing over that fact, you know, oh, he could have done more to save the students. To be honest, if he just called the code red and did nothing else, I think he did more than most. He saved so many more kids. And I just, you know, it's really difficult because I understand as a parent's perspective, you know, myself, I would jump in front of a bullet for any child. However, if I don't know where the bullets are coming from and I'm trying to protect other people and make sure they stay away from the area because I don't want anyone else to get hurt that I can control, I can't stop the bullets that I can't control, if that makes sense. I can control people from around the area where I know where they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if I run into a building
Yeah.
and it's the wrong building, then anyone in the wrong building and outside can be killed, you know?
Yeah. It's a tough situation. It really is. I don't envy the jury's position right now. It's because there's so much expectation on them that I think is wrongly put on them. I think that there's pressure for them to say you didn't die in vain, but what they don't realize is this is not the case against the shooter. They need to be able to separate that in their mind and say this is not the person who caused this mayhem.
Exactly.
And
I'm not alone. I've seen a few people say this, you know, on your stream throughout the weeks, is that it was such an emotive evidence, if you know what I mean, rather than any actual evidence. There was no video of him sitting behind a car hiding. You know, he was looking, he did call the code red, he was using his radios, he did keep people back. He wasn't given the right information to do anything more. You know, there was no other evidence. It was all very much this person was hurt, this person was, and it was a tragedy. As a parent, I mean, I just can't imagine myself in the situation of being one of those parents or relatives of the victims or those who survived. I suffer with complex PTSD myself for a different reason, obviously not a gun injury, but, you know, I understand the parents' position. But if all those parents got together, along with lawyers and all the police department, and say, look, here was the errors. We had lack of communications. The FBI knew in advance and didn't do anything. This person didn't speak to this person. This failed. Then so much more could be achieved than wanting justice from somebody who can't really give them that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to hear your take from a country that has a very different standpoint on the firearms. You know, I've lived in England for a couple of years. It's very, very different, and it's not, at least when I was there, it was not normal to even see a police officer with a firearm. You had to go to like Heathrow Airport and see like the special teams or something to see a gun. It's just a different.
Our police officers aren't. Yeah.
It's
our
different.
local law enforcement don't walk around guns. It's batons and tasers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's.
But, I mean, we. Sorry.
Sorry, everyone's saying that I love the accent. You have to tell us what part of England you're from. They're saying south.
Oh, I'm in the very south of the UK. So if you look at the UK on a map, and then right in the centre at the very, very bottom, before you sort of cross over to France, that's me. I'm in Hampshire.
Right. You're right there. You can swim the channel if you wanted to.
Yeah, if I wasn't lazy.
Well, get on it. Get on it. Well, thank you so much.
We've got our own problems. We've got a huge issue with people going around at the moment, and rather than it being shootings, we're getting a multitude of stabbings right now. So we've got our own issues, and we're not prepared to deal with it because we aren't a country that's prepared to deal with that at all. Yeah. But we are thankful that we don't have the school shooting situation. And I think as a country as a whole, that has got to be remedied for you guys. But yeah, that's my take from the UK. And I'm sorry if I cut that last call short.
You're good.
We know how to call in now from other countries.
Wonderful. Share the wealth. Share the wealth. Well, thank you so much.
Brilliant. All right, thank you very much.
We'll see you, Allison.
Much love to everyone.
Yeah,
and it's
likewise.
a brilliant stream.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Awesome. Great to have her call in from the UK. I'll be happy with the murder trial after this, says Rudy Patootie. Yeah, we wanted to go back to just a regular old murder with no kids involved, please. Let's see. I wanted to bring something up. Let me show you something. Let me show you a quick picture. Let's see, ready, one. I want to show you this right here. This was a car accident I responded to, and yes, sadly, on the roof that is blood. But this was what was visible of the car after we climbed down into a ravine after it had gone through off a ledge, barbed wire fence, and everything. I was the first person to respond to this car accident. We pulled over. We called 911 as we were running down there because there was just a cloud of dust, and another passerby also stopped, and the cops were very quick in getting there. The vehicle, the lady who was inside this car, it was just a single car rollover. She was really cut up, but she was moving. She had unbuckled her seatbelt. She was climbing out of the car. She was halfway through the broken, sunroof when we get there. And the officer who showed up, what he did was he called for a medic, and then he stood there, and I couldn't understand why he would do that, and he said, "I'm not going down there. It's not safe because there's blood everywhere and glass and everything else, and there's a huge ravine through a barbed wire fence we had to climb through." And so my buddy and I, who I still don't know his name, climbed down there and helped this woman out of the car as she was just covered in blood and confused, but she wasn't in a state that us moving her would cause her injury, and the officer did zero to help. We got her up about halfway up the ravine wall, out of the bushes, out of the, all the mess of everything, and then the ambulance showed up, and it turns out the ambulance, both the people in the ambulance were not physically fit enough to climb down the ravine, and so we had to use the stretcher and put her on the stretcher, and then lift her up to them to get her out of the ravine. But through the whole thing, this happened 6 years ago, I think. 6 or 7 years ago. Through the whole thing, the officer who was almost a first responder, who was there like moments after we got there, he was very quick in showing up, did nothing to help the situation, to make it, to help the person who was clearly suffering in pain, had been injured, needed attention. There are officers who are not medically trained as first responders. I know this blows your mind, but there are officers who are police only, and there are officers who are medics. There's actually some that there are paramedics, and there are others. This officer that showed up was police only. He did not have equipment in his car beyond like Band-Aids and a lollipop or something. He had nothing to help in case of an accident. Which I'm looking at this, and I put this in the light of Scot Peterson, who was a police officer, the sheriff's officer. I don't know what his medical training was, but it's possible that his training as a police officer was not focused on the medical side of responding, so that after the shooting was over and people needed medical help, he was not the best person to go in and do that. When there were other people who were medically trained to go in and help evacuate people, to get the victims, he would not be the person. I still have a hard time with that police officer, because I also didn't have the medical training. I mean, I was an Eagle Scout. That was my training. That's what I was dealing with. I had another gentleman who was also an Eagle Scout, who we have practiced putting bandages on people at scout meetings, and had zero hands-on with anything. We did not have the protective gloves. We did not have the all the gear and the splints and everything. We knew how to do a chairlift, using a place for her to sit on her hands so we could help lift her up. That was it. But for me, it felt like I had a responsibility that I could not stand there as a human and look down at this lady who was, halfway through the window of her car, and begging for help. I couldn't say, well, help's on the way, and that's going to be enough. I felt that I had to do something, and I knew that I wasn't the best person. I knew that there were probably doctors or somebody driving by on the road who had no clue what was going on, that would have been much better in that situation. But as a human, seeing that situation, I felt that I had to jump in and do something. Good news. She survived. She made a great recovery. Her family contacted me through Facebook and thanked me afterward, and just gave me the update. Fun fact: the whole car accident scene reeked of alcohol. Absolutely, it was everywhere. There were wine bottles everywhere. The police officer assumed she was drunk. Turns out that she was transporting a whole bunch of high dollar wine up to a friend in Oregon, and she had not a drop of alcohol in her. It was just everything that just broke, and as the car rolled and everything. But anyway, I look at that and I try to put myself in this situation. I was not a hero. Okay, I did very little. I did the bare minimum just to help her get out of the car. To help, and it didn't eliminate her pain. It probably caused more pain. It did not, it didn't save her life. She would have lived either way. But I think that we as people, as individuals, have a responsibility when we see somebody else who is suffering to step in and help. And I think that's what Mrs. R.A. was getting at a little bit when you mentioned when she's standing right here, when you mentioned that we have this duty to help people. So in that light, when I compare that to Scot Peterson, I see him both as the police officer and as the individual, just a citizen that should have done something or could have done something. And I think, yes, he could have done something. I think it's wrong to charge him because I can't get myself in his head and know for sure that what he knew is what I think he knew, and thus would be a crime. But anyway, so that's neither here nor there. Side story, that was it. I think there's a law that prevents being sued for that. There's a Good Samaritan law that prevents people who are trying to do good that cause harm. For instance, if you see somebody who is not breathing and you start CPR, and in the process of CPR, in your exuberance to get them breathing, you break their ribs, which happens, sadly. They can't turn around and sue you for having broken ribs. Okay, burner phone's lighting up again. Let's see who's here.
Samantha to accept.
Samantha, how are you doing?
Samantha.
Oh, you need to turn down your volume, or else you're going to hear me twice.
It worked.
It worked. Wonderful. This is one of our great mods. Samantha, how are you doing? You need to turn down your TV.
Fine. I have very bad reception. I have a very bad reception. I just wanted to call in and say thank you so much for everything that you do in such a safe place. If you're responding to me, I can't hear you because I've had to turn the volume down, but we love you and thank you so much.
Wonderful. Samantha, thank you so much for calling. It's good to hear your voice. Thank you for the great work you do as a mod. You're wonderful.
Okay, it worked, so I might bug you in the future. Have a
wonderful.
Day,
I look forward to it. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's always fun to see a phone number come up on the screen that has an odd number of digits. And you're like, that doesn't look normal. It's from another part of the world. That's why. Mrs. R.A., could you please bring R.A. some water and a mug, please? I don't think we have any water.
More than 5 minutes.
Who said it's been more than 5 minutes? What was that? Pantufel, what did I say? I forgot what happened 5 minutes ago. Oh, as far as the court session starting back up. Yeah, we are, let's see, we have, box 2 needs to be 6. This is our count so far today. So we've got 86 minutes from yesterday plus 63. So all you who are really good at math will have to figure out how long that is. But we're counting minutes here of deliberation. We do have a video feed, at least from the courtroom. So we'll see if any questions come in, as long as audio's turned on as well. Mark said it's a 5-minute decision.
Matthew, call and gosh darn it.
Mark said it's a 5-minute decision in his closing. He did. The defense said it's not, because you have to at least read these instructions, which took, almost an hour for the judge to read all the instructions. And the judge is very good and knows all the words and is very practiced.
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?
Kurt with the squirrel sound. Squirrel, let me play that real quick. We have to.
Squirrel.
There it is.
Squirrel!
There it is. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate that. Good to have you here. Thanks for covering this trial as well. I've heard a lot of people who watched it over on your channel. I'm not sure if Matthew's going to call in or not. He may be busy. He actually...
Is that correct?
He has a real job where he does real lawyering. And let's see. There he is. Matthew's here. We'll see. We won't force him to call in, but the option is always there. Let's see. Yesterday's a bit off because they did not get the instructions and evidence immediately. They likely got it 35 minutes after the counter started. Right, Goodman Law, you're correct on that. Just because we started the counter because they left the room, they probably were able to do things like vote for a foreman and that, but there were procedural things the court had to do just to make sure the evidence was in order, and then it would be brought in. So it was about half an hour after. It really eliminated the option for them to get done last night, to have a quick verdict. They've only been going for about an hour this morning. That's not very much. I mean, that's not very much. Think of the open and shut cases that we've heard.
Call from
uncivil law.
Hey, Kurt, how are you doing? This is Recovery Addicts.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fabulous. What's on your mind this morning?
I'm just waiting for the Supreme Court to drop some cases this morning. I got a couple from Friday to cover as well. We're going to see if any big ones drop today. But I thought I'd take 5 minutes and just talk about this Scot Peterson case because I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I think based on I don't think the judge is correct in letting the case go forward. I don't think that the officer can be a caregiver as a matter of law. But that is presently a problem for the Court of Appeals if he gets convicted. Based on the judge's instructions, though, my expectation is that the defendant's going to be convicted. I think the state was much better throughout in presenting its evidence. I think its closing was basically textbook perfect in sort of what you look for. And I think they were able to marshal their evidence, and the defense lawyer, although he certainly scored points along the way, was trash in opening, and his closing was chaotic, disconnected. So my expectation is the jury's going to convict.
Yeah. So when you're talking about trash, we did a count during the trial. There were 140 times during this trial that the state objected to something the defense had done, and the judge sustained it. Now I realize that's not an accurate measurement. You know, some lawyers object more than others, but it definitely was one-sided on that. And I don't think it was because the judge was biased. I really don't.
No.
I think that the style.
No, I think he was definitely pushing the envelope. I don't know the degree to which that was deliberate or not. But he was definitely pushing the envelope at points. And so I think perhaps during closing with the objections, perhaps less appropriate, but, during the actual substance. But I found his opening, I didn't understand what the narrative theme was at all from the opening. Yeah. I didn't understand what what his theory of the case is. Like the entire point of opening is to basically lay out your theory of the case in so many words. Like, this is what the evidence will show.
Yeah.
Right. This is what the evidence will show.
Well, he gave his closing as an opening.
So. Yes. He gave. Yeah, you're exactly correct. It was in closing. It was not in opening form.
Right.
So it was not in correct form, and it lacked a narrative that made me understand what is his theory of the case. Like, the state's theory of the case is guy didn't act, people died. I'm like, okay, great. What is your theory of the case? Is it that, that he couldn't hear the noises, that he took appropriate action, his actions were consistent, that he doesn't have a duty, all these things? It just lacked, I didn't understand from the opening where the defense was supposed to be going, where they were going.
Yeah.
And so it failed. It failed in an opening, both technically, because it wasn't in correct form, and strategically. And the closing was better, but it was chaotic.
Let me ask you about that closing, because we saw that he wanted more time than he got. He got 2 hours. And he did not touch at all any of the elements of the charge. How big of an oversight was that?
Well, the state was correct to call him on his bullshit. I mean, I'll give the state that. It's like, yeah, he didn't bring it up. Let's go through the elements again. I mean, it's not necessarily an error in and of itself, but I would be hammering What I thought was the biggest blunder on the whole thing is he spent all of 2 sentences, I counted, 2 sentences on whether or not he's a caregiver, which is a huge legal issue. It's a huge issue, whether or not he's a caregiver legally. And he spent no time. He spent 2 sentences on it total. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
I have to say, I found Mark very enjoyable to watch. Now, I'm not looking and grading him as an attorney. I do believe that the sustained objections were mostly right. I would have agreed with that as far as the judge's ruling on those.
He was perfectly fine.
He was all over the place.
He was good.
But he was fun to watch. He was entertaining.
He was good in direct and good in cross. So he was fine. He was definitely pushing the envelope. He was good in direct, good in cross. He had a very good ability to get from the witnesses what he needed. So he was very good on that, from getting potentially hostile witness to get him the things he needed.
Yeah.
So I don't really strongly object to his direct or cross. He was definitely pushing the envelope. I'm not sure the degree to which that was deliberate in sort of testifying or trying to basically really put words in their mouth in a sort of an improper way.
Yeah.
But, he was fine, but his opening and closing, not so much.
So, Kurt, you're feeling definitely leaning conviction on this one,
I think
on all the charges?
Especially with all the lesser included, because it's like, well, is it this? And if not this, is it this? And if not this, maybe it's this, right?
Yeah.
Because on those top counts, it's like, is it negligence with harm? Is it negligence without harm? Or is it just straight up negligence? It's pick one of the menu.
Yeah.
So I think that, anytime you have lesser included, you're looking at the possibility of a compromise verdict. And, there's 10 of those in various forms. And then the perjury count.
Tell me a little bit about perjury. How do you feel about that one?
I don't think it's provable as a matter of law. I would dismiss it as a matter of law. I don't think any reasonable jury can convict on perjury.
Okay, so this judge has surprised us a little bit during this. Sometimes he seems very anti-Mark Eiglash, and sometimes seems very, very fair. And there was a moment when they moved to dismiss that the judge seemed to give it a lot of thought. We're like, whoa, is something about to happen here? What are the odds? The jury comes back with a conviction, and they make a motion to, I'm trying to remember the motion, to set aside the verdict.
Motion, judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
Right.
JNOV.
Do you put any chance of that actually happening?
No, because, that takes courage, and I don't think this judge has that kind of courage to do that. He wants to let it be someone else's problem. Yeah. He doesn't want to make the decision. He wants to let it be the jury's problem. He wants to make it the Court of Appeals problem. It's like, it's not me. He doesn't want to be the guy to make the call, which, is kind of the job he signed up for there as judge, but, okay. So I never expect a JNOV. And I don't expect one here. I think he's going to make it the Court of Appeals problem.
I have to say, I've never seen one. I've never seen one actually get sustained, and that would be remarkable if it happened. But I know I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Could be today might be the day. So, Kurt, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate your take on this. Love your coverage as well. Good to hear from you. Good to have you here.
All right, I'll talk to you later, my friend. Bye-bye.
We'll see you. Bye. Thank you much, Kurt from Uncivil Law. Good to have real lawyers like Kurt, and Matthew, and Nicole, and several others here in chat that can help us out with things. Here's another one. Here's a good one. Matthew, are you there?
Scott, how are you doing, man?
Doing fabulous. How are you doing this fine Tuesday morning?
I am doing great. Nervous to follow Kurt. What a great analysis he gave us.
Awesome. Tell me, what are the high points that you heard from him, or anything you want to expound on as well?
I think that his analysis of the lesser included and how much that's going to, I think, distract the jury and make them feel a little more compelled to find guilt because they have so many different options to choose from. I think that's spot on analysis, and I think that's a real risk that they run here.
Yeah, it's not a either or. We're not just talking about guilty or not guilty at this point. Where if those were the only two options, if there were no lesser includeds, I would put the odds the jury comes back with a not guilty as much higher, right? Because you can't. It's either throw the book at him or not at all. And and those lesser includeds are like, we're somewhere in the middle. Okay, I don't quite feel good about throwing the book at him, but also I don't want him to walk, and that puts all of that into play. So yeah, I would not be surprised
sure does.
about the lesser includeds coming in.
It's like, I don't want steak, but I might take some chicken.
I'm not that hungry, but yeah, let's eat.
I could eat. So here's my thoughts. Because at the outset of the case, I wasn't too upset that this was a case that was being brought. I mean, obviously, none of us knew all of the facts. We only knew what we learned from the media. And so obviously I was in that same category. And so I wasn't too upset that this was a case that was being filed, because of what we had heard is that he stood by and did nothing, which is obviously very inflammatory for me as a parent, former police officer, current lawyer. Those are things that really upset me. But then as we got into the evidence, I realized this is not the case that was sold to me. And I ended the case thinking, I don't think that I would find him guilty here. I don't think that this was criminal activity. So here's my thought behind it. I think that the state, just like what Kurt was saying, is that this is going to be something that is going to be presented to the appellate level. I think the state here is willing to take this risk on a very narrow case, because if they win, then they want to take it to that Court of Appeals in order to create that new precedent. That way they could hold more people accountable like that to avoid the possible Uvalde in the future.
Yeah. You brought up Uvalde. Is it just a matter of time before we have that trial? Or are we waiting until this one? I realize it's a different state, right? And every state has different laws. And the I don't know if Texas has the whole caregiver portion of, element to the charge. If there was negligence or something there, are we just holding our breath, waiting for this to come down, and then we'll see how to move forward on the other ones, or are they completely unrelated?
Honestly, yes, I think that we are all holding our breath to see what will happen. I think we're going to be, I think that's a dangerous game, because I think we're going to be holding our breath for a long time. I don't have faith that we're going to see charges that come out of that. I think if anything, we're going to see massive civil suits, if they haven't already started. I haven't been tracking that, but I think we will see massive civil suits, which could very well lead to uncovering additional evidence in order to maybe pursue a prosecution later on, because you can invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege in the civil case in order to avoid prosecution. For that reason, is because some people use the civil cases to get that evidence that they wouldn't otherwise get without a warrant, and then just turn that over to the DA for prosecution. I've done that.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think a civil case would satisfy the public outcry for vengeance, for justice. I think the public is behind this and wants to see some changes, and it's hard in a civil case to see, oh, there was a settlement, oh, it's all good. Money makes it better. It doesn't. It doesn't for the families, and it doesn't for everybody else, especially if it happens again. So I think there's going to be a lawsuit there. We got a question here from Julie Songs for you. It says, what would Matthew do with juror number 3?
I might have a little more of a temper than the judge, but I would not have let it go right then and there. And he may have had good reasons for doing that. And I think you pointed this out in live stream yesterday, is that the judge is essentially a witness here. And so he may acknowledge that there's this potential for a perjury charge there. And so he says to himself, you know what, I don't want to drag this out or ruin that possibility if the DA decides to bring that case. So let's just let it ride. What's done is done. Whatever I say now is not going to change it. I could admonish this person, the juror number 3, all I want. It won't change anything. So I'll let them do their thing.
Yeah. I have to admit the irony of a situation of potential perjury occurring by a juror during a trial where someone's on trial for perjury. It's just like how do you not do something here? How do you just let that slide and still say, but we're going to throw the book at this guy if he did it? When in Scot Peterson's case, it was perjury not in a what was it, a legal proceeding, whereas in this case it would be perjury in a legal proceeding. You would seem like it's even more severe. Now, obviously, the facts of what they were talking about are a little different. One was whether or not you had involvement in this case before, and the other was, what happened at the scene of a crime. But it just seems like how can the judge just let that slide and not say anything and just send her home, and she's going to find out on the news, today, whenever she's released, that, oh, guess what? There was a little drama with you, that everyone thought you committed perjury.
Here's what I would have done, and this is a little bit of a trial strategy that I will use sometimes, is if we're about to go into some pretty dangerous territory in, let's say, a family law case, and there's been some family violence, and I want to start asking some of those questions about the family violence, but I really want to put the witness on edge. As I start asking some of those questions about, have you struck your spouse? When was the last time that you put hands on her? I might ask one of those questions and then say, Judge, I'd like to request that you admonish the witness on his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, because the questions I'm going into could be grounds for prosecution. That little admonishment there puts them on edge. And if the judge had brought up that juror to say, I want to ask you some questions, but first I must advise you, you're privilege, you have a right to remain silent, and just read them the Miranda right.
You're just mean.
But imagine it, I think that would have driven the point home, rather than them sitting at home wondering, are they going to do anything? I think putting them on notice right then and there that you may very well be prosecuted here. I have some questions to ask you, but I don't want to force you to incriminate yourself. That would have driven that point home, because I'm such a huge proponent for jury service that I don't want people seeing that and losing faith in our jury system. That's the thing that upsets me.
Yeah, it does sound like this juror really wanted to be on the jury. Got the wrong message from your video, possibly, and figured out how to answer the questions in a way that she slid through. I don't know if they had used all their strikes. I don't know if the defense had used all their strikes on this one. And thus we're sort of stuck with who was left over. It seems like the juror numbers were pretty low, but they might be assigning those numbers after they made it through the selection process. So, I mean, they had numbers 1, 8, 7, things like that.
Right, but whenever it comes to jury selection, though, whenever it comes to those strikes, because there's the difference between strikes for cause and peremptory strikes. And those strikes for cause, those are unlimited, at least in Texas. Those are unlimited, because the strikes for cause are for a juror who will not be fair. And so it would be unfair to the people to limit those. From
what I could gather from what happened with juror number 3, it sounds like she answered in a way that would make her exempt from the strikes from cause. But you say, the involvement wasn't that much, or, got some, but I can be fair. It turns out there was a lot of involvement. Which might have been more for cause. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Hopefully she talks to the press and we get more information about what her background was and what exactly was the issue. But
either way, she minimized her involvement, which is what avoided the strikes for cause. And what we call it, whenever someone gives an answer that might cause them to be biased or to lead to dismissal, is the other attorney will then try to rehabilitate that witness, that juror, to say, okay, you indicated a moment ago that you typically think that mom should get custody, but are you committed to that now, or could you still be fair, or was that taken out of context? Giving them a chance to explain those answers that would otherwise get them dismissed, and rehabilitate them so that way they can stay on the jury.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, fun stuff. Did you have a take on how long the jury's going to deliberate?
Honestly, I was hoping that they would go just a little bit longer last night and we would be done last night. But that was before I heard the full reading of the jury charge, because good grief, that was a novel and a half.
Why did the judge not just say all these charges are the same for charges 1 through 7? This applies. I mean, I realize he read each name individually. That's important. It's important for the families, for the victims to feel like you're getting justice for your child, that they're not just lumped into a group. And that's the only benefit I can see. But, oh my goodness, it sounded like we heard the same thing 500 times. And I still don't know what the definition of culpable negligence is.
And the reason is because if a party has requested the jury charge to be presented in a certain way, and that's what's presented to the court, and the court rules on it and says, okay, I've accepted your proposed charge, and there's no objection to it, it's that party's case to write out the correct charge. And if the defendant didn't object to it, to say that doesn't need to be that way, or present a legal basis in order to rewrite it, then it would stand as is. And so I think that it needs to be that way, the way that it was written, so that way they're all self-contained charges and it's not hinging on others. That way they can look at certain sections and don't feel like that they are connected. Because if you say see above, now how do you bifurcate that whenever it comes to the appeal? If they're all kind of connected and it's one big charge? Because I can tell you there have been countless cases, and there will be countless more that get to this stage right here. They come back with a verdict, one way or the other. Let's say for guilt. They come back for guilt. I was thinking more civil. They come back for guilt, and it gets overturned on the appeal solely because there was incorrect wording in the jury charge. That one reason alone could be enough to overturn it and get a whole new trial.
Yeah. Interesting. If this does get, as Kurt was mentioning previously, if this does go with a guilty verdict, and then it would be up for appeal, it's years in prison, right? The appeal process does not move. You don't have a right to a speedy appeal. You have a right to a speedy trial, but the appeals process can drag very slowly. And if it does go to appeal, and if he does win the appeal, it would be a retrial. I guess they could also, the appeal could set him free, right? They have the option to say we're reversing the decision.
Yes, and those are rare. Bill Cosby is one of the more recent ones, at least with a lot of publicity, where he was found guilty in trial, but on appeal, they reversed and rendered a verdict in his favor that found him not guilty.
Probably not going to see that.
That's a possibility, just
might
rare.
Go back to trial,
I don't think we would see that here.
I wonder if on appeal they decide not to charge again if it went that route. Because I don't know if sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just wondering if the public outcry for blood, okay, the vengeance, we want justice, is satiated by some term, but it's not. I mean, most of us have a hard time thinking that Scot Peterson, who did respond, who was doing things, who ordered the code red, is getting the same sentence as the shooter. That for me, I just can't. I cannot see that. I can't say how is this justice really? To see something where he did good things, where he was helping, where he was also, we see him on video waving the kids, get out, get back, type of thing. Mm-hmm. He was helping save the lives of kids. He ordered their lockdown, prevented the gunmen from going into the classrooms where they were sitting ducks. There's only one entrance and one exit. He could have had every single classroom at his disposal in there, and he clearly saved lives by what he did. And it's hard to see him receive potentially the same sentence as the one who actually caused the mayhem.
That prospect is gut-wrenching. That is absolutely just a horrible possible outcome, and you're absolutely right. That's the sort of thing that would get the public up in arms. At least you would hope that would cause a public outcry. But what if they don't? What if this happens and everyone just says that sucks and they move on? Because that's my big push, is I'm trying to educate the public, just like you are, on how important it is to stay involved, stay educated, so that way we are collectively moving forward and progressing, so that way our legal system is improved.
Yeah. Matthew, thank you so much for your take. As always, a little bird told us, it might have been you, that your birthday's coming up on Friday.
It sure is.
You're just a spring chicken. You're just a youngin'. Let's
Apparently
see.
41 is young.
41 is young. For anyone who's over 41, 41 is young. So that is exciting. Happy birthday in advance. Hopefully we get to see you a little bit on your birthday on Friday. But that's awesome. Congratulations in advance.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do, and thank you to the chat for being so fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks for the call, Matthew. We'll see you.
All right.
By the way, thanks
Bye.
for the great job on the podcast too. Absolutely amazing. My favorite episode
It was my
ever.
pleasure.
Thank you very much. We'll see you.
All right.
Bye. All right. We just need Goodman Law to call for the trifecta, and then we'd have it. Yeah. Let's see. That's exactly the issue, says Anna Marie. The penalty. It's hard. I wish the penalty were much smaller, but at the same time, I don't see that he's. I still don't think that any penalty is right. That's personally where I sit with Scot Peterson. I am watching right now. We're keeping an eye on Twitter because we do have the camera live from the courtroom right there. And that seal is not a screensaver. That's not a still image. That is a live video from the courtroom. No audio currently, but they are standing by in case the decision comes in or questions come in. I'm not sure if the questions will be aired live, but I'm hoping, I've got my fingers crossed for that. Sometimes the questions they ask are very insightful. How can you follow both of them? Goodman Law, it's easy. You just have to call up, and your opening statement just has to be, the previous attorneys are both wrong. That's what you need to start with, and then just start from there. It can't be any worse than some of the closings we've heard in different places.
Goodman, you're up.
There it is. Cachette just called you out. Goodman, you're up. Let's see. Could this come back as a hung jury? Yes, that's a potential. It's a lesser potential because you need one. You only need one to hang the jury, and so you have 6 people on the jury. On this case, other cases, say like murder trials, we're going to have 12 people on the jury. But in this case, there's 6 jurors deliberating, and one of them could be hung. Could say, I'm going the other way. There's no way. I'm not moving. I'm not budging from this position. They could say he's absolutely guilty. It could be either way. It could be one person saying he's guilty, he needs to pay a penalty, and everyone else saying no, he doesn't, or vice versa. Everyone else could say he needs to pay a penalty for this. I mean, he clearly, neglected these kids and caused their death as a result. And one person says there's no way. And either way, it would be hung. And it could be any mix of that. I mean, it could be 3-3. We all wish we could be a fly on the wall there. When you're asked to call into the Super Chat, you're required to call in as a matter of law. Them's the rules. I'd hate to have to report Nicole Goodman to the bar for failing to call in when she's been called out. But can we discuss the fact that we all need to look at us the way Mr. Recovery Addict looks at Mrs. R.A. Forget a love like Johnny and Jude. All we need, love like Mrs. and Mrs. R.A. Karen, thank you. I credit Mrs. R.A. for all that. She has a great deal of patience and has put up with a lot. But she's amazing. I married up. Consider Super Chat bribes as lawyer fees. That's cachette. How do I forward those on? Mrs. Nicole Goodman has already volunteered to be pro bono for me. So in case I ever need some help out there in California, West Coast. And she's been helpful already. Did they prosecute Scot Peterson again? Oh, will they prosecute Scot Peterson again if hung? Probably. They probably would. Generally they do go through with that. I don't know. I think they have a good argument. It was well put together. They have evidence. I think they do it. See, Peter Tragos at Lawyer You Know on YouTube does recap videos. He has summarized this case. I love Peter Tragos, mostly for his hair, but he's also got a good take on a lot of things. I like watching him as well. If you require a throat break at any time, wait. Look at this. We get the trifecta. We get the trifecta. Nicole, you did it. I'm checking off the box. This is the first day we've had the 3 lawyers all call in on the same day. So,
I don't know how I could follow those 2 gentlemen. Sorry, I have to get myself some caffeine.
no,
But I'll try.
they're awesome. I love to take a little bit different take from everybody. Everyone sees things a little bit differently, and obviously the legal system is an adversarial system. So you often have to respond to or counter the opinion of someone who's very, very smart and very educated on something. But I'm sure you can do it. You just have 2 people to counter. So.
Well, it's difficult because I agree with them, except to a certain extent. The issue with the caregiver was decided by the judge. That's the only way the case went forward, and that's the only way the jury instructions were decided the way they were, because he made that determination. So I do believe Eiglarsh wanted to talk more about it, and I think that's why he asked for more time, but he was focusing on the evidence that was not supporting the factual scenario that the prosecution was laying out. And because he was so hyper-focused on that, he sort of skimmed over the legal issue until he realized it sort of towards the end. Yeah. And so I think that's why he skipped over it. But the judge had already ruled that was the theory on which the case was proceeding, that he was a caregiver.
Yeah, because that's a required element. It's not you have to meet one of these 4 things. There are 4 elements, I believe they are, in that charge, and that was a required one. They did make a motion to say, throw this out. They haven't met these elements, but the judge.
I guarantee you, he made more than. Yeah, he made more than one. I guarantee you there were pretrial motions.
At least 2 during trial that I heard.
Right.
But obviously pretrial as well. What would you have done different had you been Mark Eiglarsh on your closing? How would you have approached that?
It's tough to critique someone like him because he is such an outstanding litigator. He really is. He's brilliant. I probably would have spent a little bit more time on the caregiver issue and a little bit less time on. He digressed a little bit into why they were sitting there and to be fair and impartial. Although that ended up being important because we found out, later that one of them wasn't.
One of these jurors is not like the others. That was a fun little moment.
Yeah, and I put up in chat, if you want to see a movie that's very similar, you watch about a jury plant and mass shootings and guns. You've got to watch Runaway Jury with Gene Hackman and now I can't remember his name, John Cusack. It was a really, really good flick, and it's about school shooting. And I'm not on the same political side as the movie about anti-guns, but it is the same scenario with the jury plant, so it's really interesting. But in any event, I think that Eiglarsh did do an outstanding job with what he was dealt. It's difficult when you're from another state and not so close to what happened, to not be passionate about it and to look at things maybe a little bit more objectively. And that's my fear, is that a lot of the people from that area still may be, thinking that Scot Peterson didn't do enough. Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't think he could have done more. You have to imagine yourself in that scenario, and not a lot of people can, but imagine you don't know where sounds are coming from. You're being told they're coming from everywhere else, and you're 75 yards away from the other end of the building where activity is happening that probably would give you more information. But just as the gentleman who called in earlier, whose name I forgot, but I'm just going to call him Potty Mouth right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think I don't remember the name.
He was very passionate.
Yes. Just like he was
Kevin.
saying.
That was Kevin.
Kevin, thank you. Just as he indicated, the only reason the shooter didn't shoot out the windows is because the gun jammed. But that's the very argument for why Scot Peterson stayed in a position of cover.
Yeah.
If he was shooting out the windows, that's why he was where he was.
Nicole, not to put you on the spot, but Matthew Harris has called you out saying, I'd love to hear your input on how you would present the appeal with the best option to get to the Supreme Court. Since you always do those on the fly with no preparation, how would you answer that one?
No, the one issue on appeal is the issue of the caregiver. He had a contract to protect the school, but not the students. And so I think that that's going to be where the issue lies. It's going to, and if it goes, this is the type of issue that I can see going all the way to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, it is a decades process. It's not just years. I mean, he would likely spend out the rest of his life in prison at his age. But that's the legal issue. Is a school resource officer a caregiver? And the answer is no, they're a law enforcement officer. And if the law enforcement officer is not a caregiver, then he's not a caregiver. To say that when you drop your kids off at school and you see the resource officer, you're assuming they're going to come home. No, everybody drops their kids off at school thinking they're going to come home because there's teachers and the other kids, and you think that school is a safe environment, even if there wasn't a school resource officer there. Back in the days before all of this happened, parents dropped their kids off thinking they were going to come back home at night, that it was safe, that the teachers would keep them safe. The school resource officer's job is to, deal with criminal activity that happens on there, not to patrol the campus like, a Rambo. He's there to perform a specific task for the law enforcement agency. He's not an employee of the school. So I think that's really where the issue would come from.
For me, I was looking at all the charges, right? As listening to these, as the judge read everything, it seems like it's 4 times over yesterday. It seemed to go forever, but
I memorized it.
Yeah,
culpable negligence.
I was quoting along with him. Yeah. That's awesome.
So was my 12-year-old.
Yeah, we all got that firmly implanted in our brain. It struck me that these charges, really, it require us to get in the head of Scot Peterson. And we were thinking he's got to testify. He's got to testify. We've got to know what's in his head. He doesn't have to, though, and he chose not to. And so we're still sort of guessing. And based on that, I think that if for some reason the judge had thrown out the perjury charge earlier in this trial, this whole thing would have fallen apart. Because the perjury charge is necessary to say he lied about what he knew.
Right. And
we have to know what he knew to say, yes, you were guilty because you knew this was going on. Without the perjury charge, there's nothing. So if for some reason this jury comes back and says we're finding him guilty on everything but that 11th charge of perjury, my mind will explode. I don't know. It would just be like how I don't know how I could handle that. But it seems like that is the linchpin to be able to say that we know we can discount what he says about what he experienced because he lied.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing that I thought was brilliant that Mr. Eiglarsh did was that he put on the other school resource officer his very last witness. And the way, if you listen carefully and you go back, exactly what that school resource officer testified was going on in his head was going on in his client's head. He was using that witness to testify for his client because he was saying the same thing. I didn't go in the building. I took a position of cover. I didn't know where the shots were coming from. I wasn't getting the transmissions. I was confused. He used him as Scot Peterson's voice, and that was brilliant.
Yeah. And you saw the prosecution sort of belittle that witness. Just like,
they really did.
Don't get me started on how bad he is, type thing.
Yeah, that was awful. And the prosecutor mocking Eiglarsh was really offensive too. I mean, there's just no reason to go there during trial.
There could have been an objection right there. There could have been an objection sustained. Eiglarsh has not done many of those throughout this whole trial. There's very few objections. It seems like it's almost too little too late when he does object. But that doesn't seem...
That bothers me. But I'm a ferocious objector, and I think a lot of times attorneys don't do that because they think it turns off the jury and brings attention to what you don't want in the case. But, at the same time, because I do appellate work, I know you have to preserve certain issues on appeal. So,
Melody Bennett has a question regarding appeal. She's saying, "Ask Nicole if testifying would have an appeal impact on appeals approval. Is that a factor, or is it?"
No. No, not unless there was. The only reason testifying would come up as an issue on appeal was if, like, for example, in the Alex Murdaugh trial, the appellate issue is the judge commenting on him taking the Fifth Amendment. So if somebody chooses not to testify at trial and then there's a comment, oh, well, he didn't even, bother to testify, that could be an issue on appeal. But otherwise, the defendant always has the right to testify or not testify.
Yeah, you can't use their silence against them.
Correct. And cracked.
Cracked.
Just like that. Cracked.
I've got that sound effect. I can trigger that. Oh, there it is right here.
Oh, no.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yep. Wonderful, Nicole. Your take is awesome as well. The three of you, between Kurt, Matthew, and Nicole, are absolutely fantastic. I appreciate all the legal opinions you share, and love that you spend some time here and share it with us and make us a little bit smarter every day.
Thank you so much. And I am sorry that I've been so behind on my editing and stuff. I will get there, but I will tell you, it will be exciting because
you've got some good work coming up.
I did. I interviewed the detective that was on the task force to the Night Stalker and worked Linda Sovek murder, and I'm going to get some firsthand information and share that.
That's exciting. As soon as that drops, obviously I've got the subscribe button clicked, but I don't always read all my notifications. So drop me a line and say, hey, it's here. It's here.
It'll be a couple weeks.
Awesome.
I'm falling behind on a few things, so
I can't wait.
It's nice to be appreciated.
Whoa. Did you hear that? Siri just shouted and said, "It's nice to be appreciated" at me, and I have no idea why she was listening or what I said. But
I think I often trigger Siri, and I don't know why.
It is nice to be appreciated, Nicole. We do appreciate you as well as the other lawyers. Thanks for calling in when you got called out. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
See you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Nicole Goodman completed the trifecta. We have Kurt from Uncivil Law, Matthew Harris, and Nicole Goodman, three of our just amazing legal minds here. We have many more as well, all the way through prosecution, public defenders. We've got a lot. Tish, do you want to call in? We could do that. Well, looky here, 5 months. What a blessing this place has become in my life. Thank you for all making every day brighter. Love you bunches. Thank you, Tish. I appreciate you as well. One of our fantastic mods as well. Thank you for folding to peer pressure, says Katrina. Uncivil Law was in the house. Yeah, Kurt was here a minute ago. I'm not sure if he's able to stay. He's got his own channel covering a lot of the same issues on this same case and covering it as well. So good to have him here as well. He called in a little bit, got to pick his brain just a wee bit regarding the case. All right, we have video from court. We have audio as well. I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen anything on the Twitter feed. People are moving. People are coming in. Do we have something going on? What's up here? Let's go full here. No audio still. Let's see what we have happening. Defendant's there. Mr. Eiglarsh is there. Is this a question? Bring the jury? I'm searching. I'm thinking the Parkland case, or hashtag Parkland, is probably going to be our best bet as far as Twitter updates. Not seeing anything that way. Where's the counter? The counter right now is missing. Hang on, let me put it up. It doesn't fit. Here's what I need. I need some help finding a counter that works. Let's try this one right here. I need a counter that I can control, that I can say start at this number. Box 1 is going to be the counter. Box 2 is that. Let's go there. So cut. Oh, that's not it. Box 1 needs to be. Box 2 is going to be 3. There we go. Okay. Our counter is 107 minutes today plus 86 yesterday. And let me see if I can fix this just a little bit because it looks awful. Nope, I broke it. I broke everything. Let's move this down here and shrink down box 1. Crop off these numbers. That's all I got. I can only get half the number. It cuts it off. I wish I could. I need a better app for those of you that know. Okay, let's move this guy in the very corner. That's why you can almost see the number. Okay, there's our counter. Wish we had a hot mic about right now. It's just going to be chatter right now. It seems like everyone's talking, including the reporters. Court TV is at 3 hours, 15 minutes. Let's see, 86 plus 109 is 195. Is that right? Yeah, I think we're close. Counter that shows hours so you don't have to calculate the time. Tracy, please, if somebody can find this for me, please let me know. And it needs to work on an iPad, preferably full screen. I don't ask for much. Maybe somebody could even design this app for me because it would be really useful. I have to be able to start, enter the time and start it. I'm thinking this must be a question. Must be a jury question. Lego My Brief says, I'm nervous. Let's see. Last question before they deliver a verdict in an hour or so, says Ola. I think, do they want their lunch? Is that what they're going for? Someone help me with a counter. I know there's an app out there. There's got to be an app somewhere. The verdict clock is up, sort of. We have to add 86 minutes to it because my son turned off the app, and I can't manually do that for some reason. I can't speed up time. Long Crime says it's just a question. Yeah, but this question might be very insightful. Let's see if we get to listen in. Brandy has a timer. Brandy's holding out on me. I'll check with her and see if she's got a good one. We're thinking question. Other outlets are saying it's a question. Let's see. Is there a better hashtag? Maybe Scot Peterson? Let's try Scot Peterson. Ah, there we go. Jury question. It's a jury question. Thank you very much. So we're using the hashtag Scot Peterson with 1 T, Scott with 1 T. So we're approaching 2 hours of deliberation today, plus an hour and a half yesterday. And that's assuming they started deliberating the second the judge said you can now leave the courtroom. So it's not an exact time. Hopefully we do get to hear the question. It looks like they're setting up to do that. Question on caregiver. That would be very telling. The last poll we did was on determining how long the jury would deliberate, and about 75% of us thought we were going to get a verdict today. Question, can we vote not guilty but also compel the prosecutor to issue a public apology? I don't think they can. They don't get to do the sentencing. And the prosecution is not on trial. I do like when the Heather Honey says, I do like when the jury asks questions. I feel like it's not an automatic guilty. I agree. I like to see, this is the only time we get to peek into that deliberation room, just a tiny bit, and start to interactive stopwatch. Is that, Jim Bob, is that an app? Is that a real app? Or are you just saying that's what I need? Tish, thank you for gifting some memberships. 5 of them just went out. Appreciate that. Looks like they went to Psychic. Michelle Phillips from NC. Awesome, Michelle. Good to have you back in green. Psychic as well. JM gifted a membership. Valerie Albert and Karen Kressler. Thank you very much. Timer Plus. Weatherwatch says Timer Plus. What's the plus? The plus is the fact that I can set things the way I want. I'm downloading it now. It's opening. Let's see it. Yes and no, Thomas. I can't make a stopwatch start with a certain time. I can't edit it. I need to be able to basically have a stopwatch that says start counting at 37 minutes. But Timer Plus looks like a good counter as far as that goes. It'll probably format well. Thank you, Sharon. Yes, Scot Peterson did not testify in his own defense. We are on verdict watch. We've been deliberating for about 2 hours today, plus an hour and a half yesterday. Anyone who's doing the lip reading, now is the good time to figure out what's going on between the two of them. I agree. This jury question could be extremely insightful. Brandy didn't cover this trial. She may have a timer, though, that's useful, the timer app. I'll reach out to her about that. So, yeah, we're 4 hours, I think a little less than that. Just assume we had like 4 more minutes yesterday. That would have been an hour and a half yesterday. So 1.5 yesterday plus 120 now would be 2. So we're at 2.5 hours or 3.5 hours right now. Minus 10 minutes. No verdict. We're on verdict watch, but we believe we have a jury question right now. Yeah, Melody, I don't know how he could not be nervous. I mean, no matter how you feel as far as his guilt is concerned, how are you not nervous when your fate is in somebody else's hands? Crew TV is 3 hours and 17 minutes. So they're a couple minutes behind my count. Thought the judge said no to jury questions. No, the jury can ask questions. Are you talking about the judge wasn't going to allow us to hear the jury questions? Cachette says, I'm nervous for the future court cases impacted by this case outcome. Where it's really going to set precedents is if this goes all the way up to the Supreme Court and then there's a ruling there. That's going to be the precedent that affects everybody. As of right now, this sets precedents for Florida. Amber says, Buffer, just use your stopwatch feature on the iPad clock and start and stop timer and lap and stop. That's what I was doing, basically. I have a stopwatch feature on an iPad, but my son closed down the app, which resets the timer. And so I can't just continue counting somewhere else. I just need to have a timer that I can plug in a time and say, start counting from 117 minutes. Someone's on Brandy's page asking her for her timer. Yes, thank you. Johnny, he's not charged with killing the kids. He's charged with negligence, which caused their injury. Basically, they're saying he could have stopped it and should have stopped it and didn't. Thus, he's culpable. Well, he's culpable negligence. Melody, yes. every school resource officer, teacher, coach, office staff in every school in the nation is probably paying some attention to this. I don't know if look at teachers first of all. Most teachers are underpaid for what we ask them to do for what they do in their school. A lot of teachers, very few teachers in the nation, probably get what they deserve as far as that effort. And to add an extra burden onto them is huge. The Supreme Court, I believe, in Florida at least, said teachers, staff at the school, they are in local parentis, meaning they are acting as the parent at the time the kids are at school. So they do have a responsibility for the welfare of the child at that point. But I don't know if SROs fall in that category. If he's found guilty, there are more in that posse that should have been charged as well. Ridiculous. Toy, possibility. They may ask for blood from on all hands. Let's see what happens there. Hey, Matthew. Oh, sorry, not Matthew. Thomas, your app is the winner. It lets you add minutes to it. Timer plus. Okay, so we're going to turn off. Let's go to 3. Judge is coming in. Here we go. We might get some audio any second now. Come on, I need some audio here. Judge is just getting set up.
Okay, I'm going to go back on the record. This is State versus Scot Peterson, 197166 CF10A. I have Ms. Gomes, Mr. Killer, and Mr. Klinger present for the state. I have Mr. Igosh present with Mr. Peterson, who likewise is present. We are outside the presence of the jury. I have received 2 questions on the judicial requests on the judicial inquiry form. They checked the appropriate box. Request to view evidence. I'll read them one at a time. The first one says, we, the jury, would like to view any and all available poster-sized evidence introduced during the trial by the defense and prosecution. Let me repeat it. We, the jury, would like to view any and all available poster-sized evidence introduced during the trial by the defense and prosecution. The next one reads as follows. We, the jury, request to view any and all visual aids used during the trial presentation by the defense and prosecution. I'll repeat. We, the jury, request to view any and all visual aids used during the trial presentation by the defense and prosecution. So, they have all the evidence. State.
Judge, the only thing I can think of is if they need assistance in viewing the evidence, because the evidence that they have is not accessible to them easily, if I understand correctly. We have instructions written out if the court wanted to provide them, There's a password that's required in order for them to view that evidence that we haven't given to them yet. But the court said if it became an issue, then we would address it.
No, they have all the evidence. That's not. I don't think that's what their question is. They want all the posters that you all kept holding up that were not in evidence.
Yeah, they can't view the evidence. As far as the boards, there are none. But the evidence that they have, the video, they can't view it without the password.
Well, I'm sure if they tried that, they would have told me that they can't view the video. Okay. I don't think that's what they're asking. Defense, anything you want to tell them?
No, Your Honor. I think the court has the right answer. They have everything in evidence, and there's nothing more that you can get.
Yeah, give me 1 second, because I'll type out a reply.
Okay, so they're asking for the posters. We saw the posters throughout the entire trial. They saw the posters. They want the big map. They want the view of the west side of the building. They want all the huge, massive 4 foot by 6 foot posters that they held up. The last poster, possibly one that might be most impactful that the state probably wouldn't want back there, is the one that Mr. Eiglar held up that they objected to during his closing. Talking about the burden of proof and all the different levels of proof and where they have to be for different things. They didn't like that at all. But none of those things, none of those exhibits were evidence. They were not admitted as evidence. They are not evidence. And so the answer is no. And both sides agree, both the state and the prosecution, that it's correct not to give them those. Catastrophic failure not to put those posters in evidence. Yes. I don't know. Is that a Florida thing? The exhibits are not evidence. Not as telling as I hoped they would be. Seriously, it was. We don't know where they stand. But they wanted everything. That's the thing. They asked for everything. They didn't say we want the poster that shows the burdens of proof, the levels of burdens of proof. That would be very telling, right? If they might say we want the poster that shows the west side of the building, this other view. That might be something we could read into. But they asked for everything, just full on. The judge is composing his response right now. And he's going to read that back and see if both the state and defense agree with that. But neither side made motions to have exhibits entered in as evidence, and so I guess no one wins. No one stands to benefit from this. The jury just has to base their decisions off what is currently in evidence, and I don't think they have. For instance, I don't think in the evidence they have a big map of the school. They don't show where the different layout is. They have different video angles, but do they have an overview of the school layout, like a Google Earth type thing? That's not there. No verdict yet. They had 2 questions. Both the questions were almost identical, asking for all the exhibits, any and all exhibits used during the trial. Big posters. Just heard that wanted to see posters. That means it's trending. Not guilty with 1 holdout, probably, says 80s Music Man. I don't know how you can read that much into it. Judge should have been clearer to the jury when he released them to deliberate. Okay, if some were marked as evidence, they would have those already, because everything that was marked as evidence was given to the jury. Next, the jury may ask for a field trip to the school. That would be better than posters.
Yes, sir.
Can we take a look at the notes?
Yeah, you can look at both of them.
They're now doing handwriting analysis to see who the foreman is. These notes will be written by the foreman or signed by the foreman at least. Defense should have asked for the road trip for the jury. I believe the judge turned that down in pretrial. He struck down that as an option, although the building itself has been preserved in case that was going to happen. But building 1200 is preserved. It's fenced in. It's sealed exactly as it was that day.
Here's my response. I'm using the standard form, which is 4.3, answer to jury question. Members of the jury, you have requested to view all the visual aids used during the trial. And in parentheses, I put poster-sized and otherwise, close parentheses. These items were not moved into evidence as exhibits during the trial. You have all the items that were moved into evidence as exhibits during the trial. And it's got my name on the bottom with today's date, and I'm going to sign that. State, any objection to me sending that note back to the jury or any other suggestion?
Judge, my only possible suggestion would be explaining that they were launched their aids, so it doesn't seem like that is a difference in the state made an error by not entering the evidence when we are making the launch of aid purposes.
You want me to explain to them your strategy or his strategy for doing whatever it is you did do or didn't do? I think I'll pass on that. Anything else? Okay, defense, anything else or any objection?
No, Your Honor, no objection.
Okay, so if you want to look at this before I give it to the court deputy, again, I'll read it one more time. Members of the jury, you have requested to view all the visual aids used during the trial, poster-sized and otherwise. These items were not moved into evidence as exhibits during the trial. You have all the items that were moved into evidence as exhibits during the trial. It's signed Judge Martin S. Fine. Today's date, June 27th, 2023. So my intention would be to give that to the court deputy, who can give that to the jurors. They may continue their deliberations until we hear from them or we reach 12:30. At 12:30, we'll send them to lunch, ask them to be back at 1:45. They can resume their deliberations, and they will remain so until 5 o'clock today or until we otherwise hear from the jury. State, any objection to proceeding in that manner?
No, Your Honor, just question, will we be up there at 12:30 as well?
No, I'm not going to bring them in the courtroom. If they reach 12:30, we'll just have the court deputies walk them out, ask them to be back at 1:45, and they can resume their deliberations at that time. Anything else?
Not supposed to.
Any objection or anything else?
I knew they were not supposed to.
Okay, when you're done, Madam Clerk will need the 2 notes back to be filed. Mr. Court Deputy, you can give that to the jurors, and then we will otherwise be in recess till we hear from the jury.
Okay, interesting. The jury is going out to lunch if they don't decide this, and they can go anywhere. Someone might go to Chick-fil-A, some might go to I don't know, Wawa. What do you have down there in Florida? Whoa, man. Still a lot of audio coming through. Just one second. Let's turn this down. Okay, so it's just noise from the courtroom. I'm not hearing any hot mic stuff. There's nothing insightful that I'm getting from that. Okay, so the court's not providing lunch. They're going out to lunch individually. It sounds like. Dumb question. Can you enter visual aids into evidence? If so, why aren't these entered? Heather, great question. Actually, it sounds like the way the judge answered the question was that I'm not going to explain to the jury why you did or didn't do something during court, because the state said, can you just explain to them these were exhibits and not, they were to demonstrative aids and not, I don't want them to think that we made an error in not admitting these. And the judge is like, well, you might have. I'm not going to tell them that you didn't. And so, they were marked as an exhibit, but they were not admitted as evidence. And that's sort of interesting. They could have done it. It's possible those could have been back there, it sounds like. And just because the way they decided to proceed on both sides, because both sides didn't do it, they're not going back for the jurors. Court's not buying lunch for the jurors, it sounds like. They're told to leave at 12:30, go get lunch, and be back by 1:45. And good luck. So they're spending their allowance every day on lunch, it sounds like. Hopefully a juror brought 12 dozen eggs. They can have some omelets or something. What do we think? Do we think there's a holdout? What good would the exhibits do? I think that probably the exhibit that would be most useful to them is not the one that the defense presented at the very end of the closing. I think the exhibit that would be most useful is the map that shows the location of each of the buildings, that shows where everyone was, so they could set that up and they could use their Post-it notes and say, so-and-so was here, so-and-so was here, he heard this. Now they have to make their own map, and that doesn't work very well, but maybe they have a whiteboard or something in there they can draw on. I'd love to see what's going on back there. It takes a lot of confidence to wear a lavender suit to court. He did. I'm sort of wearing the purple, but this is more like a royal purple. He's got the full-on lavender going. And he's rocking it. What can I say? He's doing a good job. I have to see if he went with the same shoes as last time, though. Judge seems pretty inflexible. I think it was fairly fair. Isn't that like evidence 101? Yes, I thought there was even a time where they stopped and took a break, and the judge said, we want to have a break and make sure you guys can go over the evidence and make sure everything you wanted to have admitted has been admitted. That's pretty standard. The reason why they need for a visual aid leans toward not guilty is because they're not resting with culpable negligence. They are wrestling with what was done within the scope of the school. So that's why they're saying this indicates possible not guilty, or at least a holdout. They may be as lost as we are. Selena says, I'm thinking guilty on lesser charges. It seems like, says Nicole, it seems like they're focused on whether or not he could have perceived gunshots from different places like other witnesses. This is a tough one. Man, this getting into somebody's head and saying, I would have heard that, so you heard that, is I don't know how I could do that. First of all, I have tinnitus, right? My wife can be standing right next to me and say something and I not hear it. But that's just like a husband-wife thing. I think every marriage has that. But honestly, there are some things that are more difficult for me to hear. Now, gunshots are not in that category. I'm pretty good at picking out gunshots, but noting that the auditory exclusions that occur during stressful situations and all the other events that are happening, and how they may register, your body physically may hear something, but the way your mind goes to tunnel vision, or your capacity to focus on something is so limited that they literally do not register. That something can occur, like kids running right in front of you that you don't see. You've all been on the internet and seen those videos where they say, hey, watch this, and you watch and you're paying attention to it, and then they say, you didn't even notice that there was a dancing elephant in the background, and you're like, what? I would have noticed that, and you go back and watch it. Sure enough, there was a dancing elephant, but your mind was focused on what they told you to watch. That's sort of what occurs, but in a stressful situation, not by choice. I don't know how you can get in his head and say, had I been standing there, I would have heard, and thus you would have heard. Timeline visuals, those were also good. I think both prosecution and defense are sort of glad they didn't get those exhibits, because they were sort of created quite shoddily. Lots of paste and glued over papers, and it seemed like a third grade craft project if you looked up close. They might not have stood up to the scrutiny of a jury. Let's see. RA, how about the sisters who were right next to each other and they thought the sounds came from two different directions? Yeah, it's interesting. I think that was insightful as well. You can't get into someone's head, but in a way we're trying to. If you find him guilty of perjury, you're getting into his head. You're saying that, no, we know you know something different than you told the investigators. You're taking that step, and once you've found him guilty of perjury, then it's going to be a lot easier to find him guilty of the others. But like I've said, if they find him guilty of negligence and not of perjury, it would be difficult. And I struggle with the perjury charge. It's how do you do that? They should have called the witness from the Letitia Stout trial about the disassociation and how we all do it from time to time, and use that to compare it to auditory exclusion. And bring in some experts. We didn't have many experts, did we? No experts in this trial, right? No experts in this trial? Is this our first trial with no experts? The visual that bothered me was the three officers standing by Scot Peterson like he was on trial for murder. It just hit me wrong, says Paul. There's a 7-Eleven right across the street. They're going to run and get a hot dog from 7-Eleven. Probably get food poisoning by 2:30. I just say that because my friend has had that experience. Okay, I'm working on the timer. Let me get this going. Let's see, we have 137, we need 86. So 86 plus 137. We're doing higher math here. So, of course, we need a calculator. I'm going to get the timer working here. Just one second. 86 plus 137 is 223. You guys probably already had that in chat, but so we need to get up to 223. I have to tap 223 times. Tonight this gets worse with age. Thanks for the heads up. It actually seemed really loud this morning. It's interesting.
It's Alison.
Hey, Alison. Thanks for calling back. How are you doing today?
Hi. Yeah, is it okay to call back quickly?
Of course.
Just had a quick thought for everybody. Well, actually, it wasn't me, it was my son. So, in the UK, things are obviously very different to in the States in certain areas, and schooling is one of them. Now, my son's 14, so I'm not sure what grade that would be for you guys. It's high school for us, which I think would be the same as what this school would have been. Is that right?
Yeah, this would be a high school.
Yeah.
15 is a freshman, right?
Yeah, so I think that's what he would be. We don't have the freshmen and all that sort of stuff. We have year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
So we don't have any of these like resource officers for protection and things like that. And I really wanted everyone's opinion on, well, I suppose it's different with you guys. I just answered my own question. It is beneficial for you if you've got these types of shootings. But here in the UK, my son has had an issue with bullying for a couple of years at school. And the school's policy is that they cannot intervene unless it becomes physical, which is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, my son's on the autistic spectrum. He's very mild autistic, but anyway, so he's a vulnerable student. This pupil that's been bullying him for 2 years now hit him, and he hit him on the shoulder. Now, my son was using self-defense, and it's all caught on CCTV. Using self-defense, he hit him back. But my son's punch landed on this boy's face. My son was the child that was punished.
Yep.
And it's difficult because I've pulled him out of the school now, and we did have a big to-do because police were involved. And the reason the police were involved is because this boy's parents called the police to say, oh, my son was hit in the face and he's got a black eye at school. The school did turn around and show them the CCTV and say, no, actually, you know, my son was the one that was picked on, if you know what I mean. He was the one that hit second, not first.
Right.
So I pulled him out. But the point is, for us, I was just thinking, if we had a resource officer, that's what this Scot Peterson's job would have been, wouldn't it? To intervene in these situations. Because our teachers aren't allowed to.
Yeah, and he did. Scot Peterson was, by the testimony we heard, did intervene in fights. He probably wouldn't have been of assistance before the first punch was thrown or the second one. But if there was an ongoing fight he was present for, he probably would have tried to stop it. He could have done some intervention during the bullying. Generally, that's probably the best time to catch it when, before it goes to violence.
Yeah.
It usually starts with words before it goes to violence. But
my son, bless him, he's because I've got 3 children, and unfortunately we've got a genetic condition, and 2 of them have got quite severe disabilities. My eldest is the one I'm talking about. He doesn't, but he's very naive, if you know what I mean, very easy. He's a people pleaser, heart of gold. Wants to be in the Navy. But the point is the school, their policy, they've changed a lot of policies over the years because of certain issues and whatever, I don't know. But teachers are no longer allowed to put hands on pupils.
Oh yeah, not
so
not a contact at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. You can't even pat them on the shoulder
nothing.
and saying good job. It's there's
So it's the same for you guys. So it's exactly it's the same here. But we don't have a resource officer, so we don't have anyone who would intervene. in that situation. And it was just a thought when I was discussing this with my son a minute ago, that we brought up that, you know, we don't have one of these people. So who do we have to protect? You know what I mean? I kind of get that. So I just wanted your opinion. Well, I suppose it's not really an opinion, is it? Because you guys do need a resource officer.
There are some similarities, obviously. A lot of schools here have probably what your schools have, which is a zero tolerance to violence. And they view the defending yourself as violence. It's like hockey. You know, there's a fight and both people get put in timeout. I think in hockey, though, the person who loses gets put in timeout. So it's a little different. Maybe we'll have Weather Watch explain how hockey works for us. But yeah, a lot of times if there's a fight, the school doesn't say, let's rewind this and see where this started and who caused it, and that's where we're going to point the blame. They say there are two people who are doing something that's not appropriate, and that was, you know, hitting each other. And so both of them end up getting the same penalty, even though one of them is not to blame. And I believe you do have the right to defend yourself. You shouldn't have to stand there and just say, well, the school says I'm not supposed to hit, so I just have to just be a punching bag until somebody can come
No,
intervene.
our kids aren't allowed to fight back. Yeah, they're not allowed to fight back. And, you know, we would have accepted consequences of him, you know, having suspension or anything. That wasn't the case. The case was a matter of the school suggested we'll get the boys to sign a contract to say they won't talk to each other anymore. That was So I pulled my son out of school anyway, and I've actually signed up to your wife's YouTube because I'm going to be homeschooling my son. So although
awesome.
things are different, you know.
It's a
I
challenge. And
ideas,
it's a wonderful opportunity as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just thought, we'd bring that up.
Alison,
so
thank
it's
you.
just a big difference. We don't have these resources.
Yeah. I think it does help. I think resource officers are helpful. Generally, I've had some good ones in school as well. And I had ones that our officer was called Officer Jolly. That was his real name, and he was a good guy. And you could kid around with him a little bit, but at the same time, he'd make sure you were not breaking the law. You're not kids shouldn't be smoking out in the parking lot, and no drugs in school. There's some zero tolerance things there. But I went to school at a time that was before Columbine, and everything was different then. Everything was a little bit different. So thanks for the call.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I hope
Not a
hope your
problem.
son
Thanks.
absolutely loves homeschool. So, and you as well.
Yeah, well, he wants to be in the Navy eventually, so he doesn't need to be a mathematician, bless him. He's not going to be that with me teaching him.
That's awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, I need some help here with the math. I'm struggling. What is the current timer on the deliberations? I've got 3 hours and 36 minutes, but I think I'm off a little bit. Does anybody have a current timer? Let's see. Our school had a smoking lounge for the students' care. That's awesome. I mean, I don't think that's cool. I just think that's I don't think students should smoke, but that's funny. 3 hours, 17 minutes, 49 seconds. Okay, so I did too much. I went too far. I have to start clicking again. Wish I could just hold down the button. This is still better. This Timer Plus idea, Thomas, is still better than anything else I had. So 3 hours, 17 minutes, 49 seconds. I'm going to need an update here in about a minute when I'm done clicking. That's how fast I click. Up to 2 hours, 15 minutes. Okay, we're going to do 3 hours. How about now? So 3 hours, 17, 3 hours and 18. That's what we're going to go with. So now I have to build my timer. Just 1 second. We have done a poll in here a couple times. 75% of us think we're going to get a verdict today, which is great. I'm excited about that. About 65% of us say not guilty. 17% say guilty as charged, with another 15% roughly guilty on lesser included, and the rest were hung jury. In a traumatic situation, you don't always see and hear everything either, and you don't or if you do, you don't remember it. Tabitha, I agree, 100%. I don't think students should smoke. This is my the quote of the day. If you take anything from today's live stream, this is my take on this. Homeschooling is the way to go. I'd love to homeschool my son, but he's highly intellectually gifted. He scored 100% on his IQ, and he can out-argue the best attorneys, and including you, apparently. That's awesome. That is incredible. I do love homeschooling. It is not for everybody. I realize there are some people who would like to homeschool who just can't. Be it the family dynamic, where you might only have a single parent in the home and you have to work. The math doesn't add up to homeschooling. But for those that are able to homeschool, a lot of them have really enjoyed it. If you or your listeners are interested, let's see what this is. Hang on, I'm getting some texts here. Neglect of a child's code 16.5 part 2. Great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement. These are I think somebody sent me I'm trying to see who this is. Give me 1 second. This is our friend over in Eastern North Carolina. Sent me some good stuff yesterday about the Supreme Court rule out of State versus Christie. I still don't know who this is. Oh, Hanky Panky Mom. Hanky Panky Mom. Thank you very much. Sending us the documents, it looks like, and a lot of other stuff. I'm sorry, I'm way behind on our text messages. Judge Simpson's having another fun day on his channel. Lots of laughter. He's so awesome. That is great. Give me a minute. I'm going to get the timer set up, and we might pop over somewhere else. Let's see, 3:35:25. 12. That is funny. 3:35:25. Is that the timer now? Tell me what the timer should be, and even if we match up Court TV's timer, that's all right. Let me build this. Box 1 is 6. I just knocked my iPad off and then caught it with one hand. I think that makes me Spider-Man. Okay, give me just 1 second. We're going to have this all set up. It was a good catch. I wish you guys had seen that. It was like the best ever. Crop to the left, crop to the right. Pretty even. I like this timer. I really do. Thomas, this was a great idea. Use just a tiny bit of tweaking, but here's our timer as it stands right now. Phone's ringing. Hang on 1 second.
Call from
Thal, my friend, how are you doing? Long time no talk.
Pretty good, bud. How you doing? You hear me okay? I'm on the car phone.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's doable. What's happening?
All right. Just want to wreck everybody's ears. No, I was going to say the whole thing about the school thing is that, one, I think this is a cover-up to, I think he is a sacrificial lamb. If you remember, the comms weren't working very well, and I remember reading a lot of reports when this first happened that the contractor was terrified of getting sued because of the comms being seen as causing the problem. That aside, the problem we have with the problem we got with this case is, or the major problem I have with it is that in law, many times you have to equally apply the law to all. So this means that prosecutors can be, thrown in prison for people upending their case. Why not? I mean, they didn't do it right, and that's basically the premise of what we're saying. This guy did something wrong, people died, or people had their lives ruined. Okay, so when soldiers, if a grenade, and I'm a veteran, so if just for the chat, but the thing is, if a grenade gets thrown at a group of soldiers and somebody doesn't jump on it, they jump away and it kills everyone else, then we got to put that guy in Leavenworth. He didn't do his job.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Where does it end? It gets kind of ridiculous really quick.
You're requiring someone to sacrifice their life, right?
Yeah.
That's
and
where
we don't even force cops to do that.
I hear
like
you.
the defense lawyer said, you get fired, you get demoted, you get thrown out, but you don't get criminal. These aren't criminal things.
Interesting. This is a dilemma. I agree with you. Some of these things are not criminal. They might be civil.
Definitely civil.
Maybe that's what we want. Maybe it would be. I'd feel better if Scot Peterson was being tried in a civil court for this, for liability there, where the standards are much different, but not criminally.
Well, and the thing is the reason that these are the reasons we have a liability court. This is why we have a liable court and we have a criminal court. This is why we have a distinction of the two, because some things are wrong, but they don't rise to the level of criminality. Right. So unless he cooperated with the person that did the crime, or unless he was complicit in the action somehow, I just don't see this.
Yeah,
I think this is absolutely ridiculous.
And the examples, even the state, when they use the two examples of culpable negligence of a teacher there, while the teacher's aide is beating the students or something like that. That level of awareness, they have not proved that it was even there. So even their examples seem to be more extreme than what Scot Peterson was in. I agree with you. I think that he's shouldering the blame for a lot of failures that seem to be outside of his control. Scapegoat was the word used in trial a lot.
Well, and the thing is too, is the teacher example is absolutely horrendously dumb, because the thing is with that is that in most of those cases, in 99% of those cases, you're not, and we've seen this time and time again, you don't see a criminal prosecution. What you do see is a liable prosecution. That you do see. Yeah. Folks are held liable, but they're not held criminal. Because, again, you have a whole different set of bars for criminal, and that's why we have that distinction. So this, to me, is trying to merge the two, and it's giving DAs way too much power that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah. I have a problem with the caregiver element of this. I realize that he's responsible in some sense for security, which bleeds over into safety. There's a line there, okay, and it's blurry for me. I don't know exactly where I stand on that. But a caregiver, if a child is not fed, they can die, and if a child were to collapse from not eating at the school, hasn't eaten at home and is not eating at the school, I would not put that on Scot Peterson and say, hey, you're his caregiver. Why did he not make sure he was receiving proper nourishment? A caregiver is responsible for that. And the teachers, the schools, that is something they're supposed to do. But I wouldn't say that's the school resource officer. And so I can't see the entire caregiver just saying, well, because you're in charge of the school, you're just like a teacher, a parent, you're a caregiver, so you're responsible for their safety. I don't think it's the same. And for 3,000 kids, he's responsible for each one of those kids in that way. Interesting.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask you what your take was as far as the verdict and as the time on how long they're going to deliberate. We're just over 4 hours now total.
Not guilty or hung jury. I think that what's going on is they want to make sure that the DA's argument is junk before they dismiss it. Like, there's no way that this could actually be, you know what I mean? So that might be a concern. I think another thing is you might have a couple of holdouts like we do in chat that are like, hey, no, he's guilty, which is fine. That's their opinion, and that's fine. And based on the evidence, I'm certainly sure that they could make a valid argument for that. However, given the way our laws work, I don't see anything but not guilty. But we're talking about 12 laymen that don't have legal degrees. So
and it's Florida. We always have to put Florida in there. Florida juries, I realize they're not any worse than anywhere else in the state. We just have a lot of visibility into Florida. They're the Sunshine State. Okay, we get to see a lot of the court system, and so we've seen some bizarre results, some things where the rest of maybe the country even was almost united. And a jury in Florida came out unanimous the other side, the other direction, and it boggles your mind sometimes. But that's how the system works. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, and real quick, just last thing, just real quick, to what Matt said one time in Goodman Law, I think he brought it up too, which was a really good point. This was a long time ago. They brought up why no one was ever held in contempt really for what do they call it when you lie on the stand or you're mistaken on the stand. What do they call that? Whatever they call that. Anyway,
you're talking about perjury.
Basically, perjury. The reason they don't go after perjury all the time from witnesses is because you wouldn't have any witnesses. No one's going to risk that. And it's the same thing with cops. If you start telling cops they got to go into a burning building and risk their life every single time, you're not going to have any cops.
Yeah, either they do it.
You're not going to have any firemen.
Either they do it and die, or they say, "Hey, that's not for me," and they quit. So yeah,
this is not career building. That's an insane level of stupidity from an ignorant populace that doesn't understand what those jobs are.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I'm just saying you're vastly wildly ignorant if you think that. Go talk to a fireman or a policeman. Go talk to any of them. They'll tell you the same thing. That is wildly insane. No one will. And the ones that do, you don't want them working for you. So you really don't.
Yep. Thal, appreciate it. Good to hear from you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. So
you too, buddy.
We'll talk to you again soon. We'll see you. All right. Bye-bye.
You keep streaming. I'll keep doing good.
Awesome. Will do. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's great. I should have asked Thal about his Pokemon cards. That's a fun question. What was the jury question? The jury question, they had two questions which were basically the same. They said, we want any exhibits that were used during trial. And the other question was, we want all the poster-sized boards that were shown as exhibits during trial. So you had these two questions that basically said, we want any and all. They didn't single out one and say, give us the map. So we can use it for our Post-it notes or something like that. They said, show us all those boards, everything that the prosecution or defense held up when there was a witness on the stand saying, point out on the map, where were you when this happened? Those they don't have. They were marked as exhibits, so they have exhibit numbers, but they were not entered into evidence. And because it's not entered into evidence, it doesn't go back with the jury into the jury deliberation room. So the jury asked for all that, and the judge had to say, no, you have all the evidence. That wasn't evidence. Those were exhibits. Let's see. Florida is booming with a huge influx of people coming in from New York and California and other states. Makes sense. Crime is going to rise. I think just people makes that rise. I'm not going to say New York and California are the cause of crime. There are definitely differences in how the governments work in different states, but I wouldn't say that's the cause of crime. The boards used in trial were the defense exhibits, and he didn't enter them. Epic failure. Some were the states as well. The state had the timeline, which wasn't entered. Let's see. Parrot Court says, I've been wanting to call and talk about my jury foreman experience I just had, but I don't know if you'd hear me over the parrots screaming. I'm working on a place to put them, though. All right, when the parrots, you might have to tell them it's nighttime and put the cover over the cage so they can go to sleep. But when they hear my voice, they'll probably start yelling my name again. Yes, Parrot really does own parrots, and they do like to harass me on the screen. That was during argument, not trial, though. See, I missed the first comment. Thal's 100% right. Thal's like, yes, can I frame that? Okay. Here's your screenshot. Thal, I'll give you a minute. Give me a thumbs up once you got the screenshot. Eiglar's maybe should have had co-counsel to keep things organized. Last Poet, I saw that towards the end, especially as he was trying to manage the video and set up the, talk to the jury and run back and forth. It seemed like he could have benefited from at least having some sort of paralegal to do a little bit of work for him, or a co-counsel. But I think it was his design to be the underdog, to be the David versus Goliath. I think that was was part of his strategy. Won my first turkey shoot at 11 years against all men. I started shooting at 6. My father was a LEO and Civil War fanatics, a CW. That's awesome. Turkey shoots, for those that aren't familiar, turkey shoots are events where you're firing what's called a shotgun. The shotgun is a gun that's designed to shoot multiple pellets with each round. So think of little tiny pellets, little BBs, and they're housed in a usually a plastic cartridge that when it's fired, it shoots all the BBs in a wad. It sort of spreads out, and you have a area of where it's going to hit, and you shoot. And a turkey shoot, you're not actually shooting a turkey. You're shooting clay pigeons typically. So they're little tiny clay frisbees that are launched by a machine up into the air, usually 1, 2, or 3 at a time, and you have to shoot them and shatter them. And if you hit them, because they're made out of clay and have paint on them and things, that they sort of disappear in a puff of smoke if you hit them. So winning a turkey shoot is a fun. It's a great event if you've never been to one. They're a lot of fun. And usually there are prizes like turkeys. So around Thanksgiving, you can enter a turkey shoot, pay a couple bucks, and you could win a frozen turkey. And sometimes they actually give away like shotguns as well as prizes. Okay. James Booth says, you can't look at this case as to what you think he should have done in hindsight, as that is always 20/20. Right. And I wish we could eliminate that. Eliminate the hindsight. And, they're taking everything. They're taking all the camera angles and all the sounds and everything that happened, and we can put it all together with the editor and say this is what he was doing at this very moment, and he should have done something else, and he didn't know all that at this very moment. Diet Coke Mama got an amen. Let's see what it was for. Let's see. Yes, I agree. Something very wise. We're going to find it. No one should be able to be taken to court for having unknown human reactions to traumatic situations, even if you've had some training for said situation. Like that. Very well said. We had a turkey shoot, but it was with long guns at 200 yards. That's a little different variation on that. Isn't that what Paul Murdaugh was shot with? Birdshot. Yes. They're very deadly firearms, especially to birds. Enough of a mistake for ineffective counsel not entering posters as evidence? I don't think so. Even with the judge coming in and saying, "Hey, on your closing, I think you wasted your time." I don't think that would be ineffective counsel. You saw he gave eloquent closing. He gave very insightful. The questioning, the cross-examination was effective. The calling of witnesses, questioning witnesses was very well done. I don't think. I think you would need to have almost. You'd need to have a very, very bad lawyer to get ineffective counsel as reasons for appeal. There would have to be major, major oversights and failings. All right. Let's see. This one is Hanky Panky Bomb. Thank you for that. I don't have time to read all the stuff you sent me, but I love it, and I will go over it and review it. It sounds like you were a true crime addict as well. Lawyers and statements exhibits aren't evidence. They are not. I think it was great, but maybe that was a big mistake. Hindsight, once the trial's over, there are things we probably should have done differently. I, for one, I think he could have done a better job. He didn't need to bring up every single witness. I mean, the fact that he said, I'm going to show you every single witness's picture and talk about them, even the ones I didn't even cross-examine. I'm going to waste some of my very precious, limited closing argument time telling you about somebody I didn't even think was important enough to waste a second on during court. That to me, I think that was ineffective as far as a mistake. Not ineffective. That was a mistake as far as his planning went. I think he could have cherry-picked the key witnesses that were very believable, especially from the state side. And I think that's powerful to say, hey, the state told you this, and they called their witnesses, and this is what that witness said, and it supports us. That was good. I like that. I think he could have done that and limited it to just the points that he needed to extract. It would have been fine. Why? This is weird. Okay, so my Verdict Watch timer, I like it. It's really good. But what I see on the screen is completely different than what you see on the screen. That doesn't make sense. I'm confused. The timer's right. Eiglar's is so infamous that he would never be deemed ineffective counsel. Yes, people, I mean, we recognize him. As soon as he stood up, he's like, hey, who is that guy? Isn't he on The Office? Just kidding. He does look a little bit like Michael Scott. Recovery Addict has decided to open the phone line for a short while. Yes, the phone lines are open if you do want to call in. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a professional, legal professional to share your opinion. I'd love to hear from you. So you just focus on our screen. Our timer, Scott. Ignore that other one. Okay, the one on screen, that's what matters. Let's go back to our other view, though, because we have another view to show. Let's see. Let me save this view. So we have the Parkland timer. Now let's go back to our other one. We had a 3-box that was working for me. Let's try this one. What happens there? So that's also not my view. Man, let me show you what this looks like. Give me a second. It looks funny. Box source 1 is going to be camera 6. Or for camera 4, sorry. Here we go. So here's how my app looks. Okay. But if I put that screen, if I take that and replace the image right here, the one with my iPad, with what is on the screen, it shows up like this. See the difference? I mean, I can use it, but anyway. All right, let's move things around a little bit. Swap boxes. One and two. There we go. Okay. And now we need the timer again. Where'd my timer go? This is not working very well. Go back here, and now we need to swap box sources again. Box source 1 is 6. Box source 2 is 3. There we go. Okay, we're gonna stay like this. It's easier. All right. Stars Hollow Gumshoe says Recovered Addict just sent you a link on the burner phone about the civil case against Scot Peterson. Let me pull this one up. That's the NPR link, right? See, this was December of 2018. So this is an older thing. I think this civil case has already been resolved or dismissed, right? There was a motion to dismiss, denied motion to dismiss. Judge also found Peterson was not protected from the lawsuit by sovereign immunity. Yeah, this was before Cruz's trial and everything. I'll have to read that in a little bit. All right, so wonder if the jury is just going to vote and decide. Christy says, I think they should just leave SP alone. I think things should happen. Policies should change. Training should occur. I believe, because sadly, as much as I hate to say it, I don't think this is the last time that this will occur at a school. I wish it was. I wish that this wouldn't happen again, and we would never have another occasion to say we should have done this based on what we've learned. But I think, unfortunately, we're not there as a society. We haven't found a cure for this, so we need to find a solution that will help make it less severe. It was fine the way it was. I know. I was just picky. Bite Me says, Scott, you're ignoring me today. I made 5 months and Buttercup is 7 months old today. Will you sing Buttercup happy birthday? I sang happy birthday, but I didn't. Oh, and now.
You're ignoring me today. I made 5 months and Buttercup is 7 months old today. Smiling face with hearts. Will you sing Buttercup happy birthday?
I've already sung happy birthday once, and we had 5 people that were on the list. So we missed that, but Buttercup shares a birthday. We'll play some music here. Buttercup shares a birthday with Alley Cat, Jen Pookie, Mr. Penn, and Genesis. So happy birthday, Buttercup, 7 months old. 7-month birthday. What is that, month day? What do you call a birthday when it's a month anniversary? Like that. But happy birthday, Buttercup, on the 7 months. I know dogs have dog span is a little different, so we have to celebrate each month as it happens. There we go. All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca. I appreciate the super chat as well. Say hello to Buttercup. Only Daryl Brooks thinks he gets sovereign immunity. Do you have July 5th on your calendar? I mean, I know there is a July 5th. What are you getting at? July 5th would be Monday. What's happening on Monday? This is a birthday song. It isn't very long. Cynthia and James, July 5th. Yes, we do have that on the calendar. I cannot wait to go back and watch Cynthia and James. Hopefully, they don't get the book thrown at them. It would break my heart to hear these two end up in jail. Honestly, I just don't think that's the place for them. Hey, Lillian, welcome. Thanks for popping in. We're on Verdict Watch. We just had a couple questions from the jury, probably about an hour ago, but we're waiting. Culpable negligence can have 3 sentences. Can be second degree, up to 60 days. First degree, up to a year. Third degree, up to 5 years. I think with kids involved, it's harsher. July 5th is a Wednesday. Oh, I'm looking at June 5th. Sorry. My bad. I pulled up the calendar and it was the wrong month. Okay, June 5th is a Wednesday. That puts 4th of July on a Tuesday. Taking the 4th of July off, by the way. Probably going to go to, I don't know, Beaufort or something like that. Not sure where. We want to go watch the fireworks. We may head back up into Williamsburg, actually. I think we are because my wife got tickets already. We're going to go to Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg, the same place I was last week, just for the day. We'll just do a quick day trip up there. Just 2.5 hours drive in the morning, 2.5 hours drive at night. But we want to see the fireworks that night. So if I stay in Colonial Williamsburg for the fireworks, which I think there will be, they'll start about, 9 p.m., 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock. That will get me home at 1 a.m., I'm not a big fan of that. I'll probably have to come down and watch the fireworks in Washington or something. So we'll leave Colonial Williamsburg early. Don't have a Just Do It soundbite yet. I need to do that. There were a couple things we need out of this trial that I just have not gotten around to. I wonder how the verdict will affect other events that take place in churches, etc. Rudy Patootie, if this goes to, first of all, if he comes back with a conviction, and then it goes to appeal, and it ends up going up to the Supreme Court, that's when it's going to affect everything. That's when it sets a precedence that's just it's very broad and wide-reaching. Thanks for the correction, Nana. I did have my calendar wrong. I was looking at June. Hopefully it won't rain on the 4th of July. I agree. I don't think we should expect a cop to enter a gunfight without any backup, especially when he's in a building where they could be anywhere. In Maryland, cops don't even respond to red calls without backup. Karen says July 5th is my birthday. Well, Karen, for your birthday, we get to hear from our favorite elderly Bonnie and Clyde criminals. Acoustics are important, as this trial has proven. I'm hoping it's dry as well. We've had way too much water up there when I was up there. Did you see any fife and drum while you were in Williamsburg? Dodie, I saw... Oh, man. I'll have to find the picture. I might be able to show you. I found there were actually two young character actors. The one was playing it's the drum that has it's like a Scottish or Irish drum that has the two-headed drumstick that he plays on the... What's the name of that? I don't know. And the other guy was playing it was like a recorder type flute. They were doing a pretty good job. It was pretty fun. They were just sitting on a bench playing. I think I got some pictures of them. We are on Verdict Watch, Michelle. We're 4 hours and 25 minutes into it, roughly. The counter's approximate because my son reset the counter for me. And now I have to just guess. Some of the families are suing the Sneed family who took cruising after his mother died. I understand them suing the FBI and school district. Man. Yeah. Oh, Newport News. James, that's awesome. Yes, went through Newport News. The cops up in your area are awful, just for the record. They hardly let you speed at all. Oh, why was the recorder invented? The sound every parent knows almost as well as their kid's voice. It is awful. When your kid goes to school and comes back with a note that says, we're getting recorders and I'm going to have to practice at home. Another reason to homeschool right there. I would sooner have my kid play the drums than the recorder. As a matter of fact, we had a kid who wanted to play the drums, and my solution for that is to buy an electronic drum set where the sound plays through headphones. And so he gets all the experience of playing the drums, but we do not have the experience of him learning the drums. What did they said on the BK case for cameras and audio for the trial? Suzanne, last I heard is that the judge is allowing video for now, but it's not live. Three blind mice. Several parents in here are relating to the recorder comments. Shirley, does anyone know why he was retroactively fired? Okay, so he did retire with a pension, and he moved to North Carolina, and retroactively they charged him they fired him because of these charges, and they also stripped him of his pension. So Scot Peterson was fired after he retired. Fourth grade recorder band. Not once in my life. Judy, very few people do. Even the kids who have recorders and practice a lot, very few know how to actually play that song. Dodie plays the fife. We called them flutophones. The state accepts that Peterson couldn't have stopped the other killings, so why doesn't that admit their policy of one officer per school is ineffective and negligent too? Bodrin. Yes, the Bodrin. I think that's what it was. I believe you can actually... the Bodrin is it has a wooden frame that's just like a couple inches thick, and then it's got the skin stretched over it, the hide, I guess you could say. And then I think you play it by using a little. It's like a two-sided drumstick. That's a short drumstick, and you play that, and you can shake it in your hand and play very quickly. And you can also put tension on the hide from the backside to change the tone of the drum. It was sort of like that. It was sort of what it was playing. Had 3 recorder players at once. I believe that qualifies you for sainthood, Rudy Patootie. The threshold is pretty high, but I think that reaches it. If Scot Peterson prevails here, he will have a greater chance of getting his retirement back. Yes. I think they would have a very hard time keeping his retirement from him if there isn't a criminal conviction. Yeah, Caper, that's exactly what we're thinking there. Maybe not reinstated. He might still have to argue or even take him to court over it, but I think he would have a very high likelihood of winning. Twelble says, my son wanted to learn the flute in 4th grade because that's where the girls sat. That's Twelble. You are in trouble if in 4th grade your son wants to hang out with the girls. You got a playa on your hands. That's what you got. So I played guitar one time, only knew a few strings. I still play a little bit. That's correct. Then he'll lose most of it in the civil trial. Yeah, the civil trial, the threshold is much lower, much lower. So when they say culpable in a civil trial, it's not nearly to the same standard as a criminal. So the odds of losing a civil are very high, even if you won the criminal. A set of Ludwig drum set. Yes, I drove my dad nuts. Trumpet player, that's also a tough one early on when you're just learning how to play the trumpet. Let me check the interweb, see if we've got any updates here on the jury. The jury is supposed to be deliberating until 12:30, so they have about half an hour before lunch. The question was, it was an hour ago now. I do find it just remarkable that the jury is just being let out, that they're not bringing, sandwiches or something into for the jury to stay and deliberate through. First grade, she had 2 boys trying to woo her. She had to tell them she wasn't ready for a serious relationship. Percussion in high school. High school is good. High school at that age, they have the ability to really be advanced in their musical skills. I realize there's some younger kids that are just incredible, but generally, by the time you're in high school, when you're playing music, it's very listenable. I mean, you can hold a band concert and it can be good, really good. Per the court TV verdict clock, we're off by a minute. Just an FYI. Well, are we ahead or behind? I like to think we're ahead of them. That's how you met, says Melissa Ann. I've got a picture with your husband in it. I'll see if I can share it. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, it's on my Google Drive somewhere. I'll have to dig it up and download it. I don't know. We'll look for that. Okay. We have someone calling in the burner phone. Hey, it's Thal again.
Call from.
Thal again.
It was Thal again. Thal again, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Okay. I'm only willing to do this if chat agrees they want to see it. So we need a poll for chat.
Okay.
Okay. If I'm approved, and this will be like probably 3 or 4 more months, so nobody panic. Okay. It's gonna be a while. But I'm willing to send you a case of Pokemon. That's 6 boxes. Okay, for the kids. Unless you went less. Okay, we can talk about that later. But one of the boxes has to be opened by you online, right, during a dead time when you got time. But I'm only willing to do it if you open the box online and chat says it's okay.
Okay, so I have to make a poll here. I hope my kids aren't listening because they'll come bursting through the door in a second. Hold on.
And if the kids are listening, you have to be good to Dad, because Dad and Mom are going to have to approve this. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So behave. Okay.
I think that's the poll. Oops, not. Let's see. I don't want that option. I have to delete that one. Okay. Okay, polls up.
Okay, and remember, if anything goes wrong with this, blame Weather Watch.
It's all his.
It's Weather Watch's fault.
It's all his fault.
That's right, because he's a weather guy. He gets away with murder all the time, and no one ever blames him. That's why we blame Weather Watch for everything.
Wow, it's
important.
We have a split decision coming up. Let's see. We've got some no's out there.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you're always going to have some no's.
No name boxes equal trouble, says Rudy Patootie. Wait, box of what before we vote? He's talking about Pokemon cards. My kids play Pokemon, which is a card-based game, a collecting card game, where each card has a Pokemon, a character, or something related to the Pokemon world, whether it's energy or things like that. And they use the cards to play sort of like a strategy back and forth game. And the cards are extremely interesting. There are actually some that are valuable, as Thal, I think, as you know. There are some that have quite a bit of value because they're rarity, and they have incredible artwork, and some are like metallic rainbow finishes, and some are more plain, and it's just it's exciting. It's a big collector's world out there, even if you don't play the game, collecting the cards. But it's it's a little like...
Just to put it in perspective for the audience, it's an $8.6 billion industry in just America.
Yeah,
worldwide, it's 32.8 billion.
Yes, and for those that are counting, that's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. I think chat is in favor. I haven't let Mrs. RA vote yet. Send the poll and see where it ends.
Well, and I kind of figured there, RA, that what I figured was that you're a family channel, so
yeah.
I can use this as promotion argument to the Vote Rehab folks, and I can be like, look, it's a promotional thing. Guys got 1,000 people watching them every time.
Yeah.
Sending him a case wouldn't be a bad little thing to promote the business. When in all actuality, does it? Yeah, kind of, not really. I don't care about that too much. It's more just about the channel having fun.
Oh yeah, we could definitely get you some views or some airtime as compensation. I realize that's not cheap. What you're offering is not.
I was kicked back.
Not dirt cheap. there's a significant cost there on your end that you're undergoing. So, yeah, I guess chat said yes.
Okay,
I'm going to keep
sounds
it.
good to me. So
it was 83% with yes, but we'll have to find a day off to do the opening. As far as no court.
Yeah, 3 or 4 months. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a while. Just want everybody to know, not to get wound up right now about it. It's going to be a while.
Sounds good.
So, but yeah, if we can pull it off, I just wanted to know if the chat was interested and if you were interested. So.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be really fun. Thanks for the offer, Thal.
All right,
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna let you go.
All right, we'll catch you later. We'll see you.
Yep, see you, bud.
Bye.
Bye.
My kids would go through the roof. They'd be so excited. Okay, let's see. If you're traveling east from Emporia on 58, they ticket their spouses. Take the James River Ferry out of Surrey. Oh my goodness. Is it that bad? They'd give a ticket to their own spouse. I think I...
Is that You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
I think I sped through there a little bit. And here's what I want to know. Is there like a 3 miles an hour over you're okay, 5 miles you're not? Is it 10? What's the buffer there? Or do they just see that I have no front license plate, meaning I'm not from Virginia, because Virginia requires a front license plate. North Carolina does not give you a second license plate. You only get the back license plate. And so they probably see immediately that I have no license plate. Out of stater, send them a ticket. That's probably what happens. Over the last 25 years, many of my dollars have contributed to that number. My son sends me all the items I need to buy. Yes, Pokemon, I've bought quite a few things myself. Some can be very valuable. There are some cards that just are literally worth hundreds of dollars. Thal's hilarious. He's great. He's when he wasn't quite so busy, he was a mod on the channel here for a while. My grandson probably owns over 1,000 cards, says Nana. That is a ton of cards. The only playing of Pokemon I know is the handheld game and the one that people look for that I've heard about in True Crime. Okay, so that one is the digital version of Pokemon. The fun little fact on that, that game was not original. It was not originally Pokemon. It was originally Ingress, which was put on by Google as a method to collect data from people. Ingress they took the Ingress game and all the components of the game and overlaid the Pokemon on top of it. And it went viral again. But Ingress was the initial game that was played for years. and I was part of that as well. It was a techie sort of game. It was a little bit weird. You don't speed in Emporia. Virginia is hardcore everywhere. West Virginia is one plate also. Usually 15. I don't think I could do 15 over. Then I'd really feel bad. Let's see. Caper says in Canada they get about a 10-kilometer over the speed limit grace limit. Jimmy, we're looking for a trial that doesn't involve kids. So we might have a tiny break between trial. We might do some court hopping with some of the smaller court systems. Obviously, we've got July 5th on the schedule where we have to be in Cedric's court. The big trial that's coming up that we're going to keep a space for is going to be Sarah Boone. So whatever we follow, we're going to have to bail on that on July 24th when Sarah Boone starts. My daughter just got a ticket for not having a front license plate. We bought her car in North Carolina and kept forgetting to put on the front plate. Oh man, that's awful. Yeah, they'll do it. Well, Melissa, we might be back up in Williamsburg. Oh, I think it's a go. Is it a go? Is that decided? Yep, we're going there. 4th of July, I'll be in Colonial Williamsburg, wandering around with all the little RAs and Mrs. RA. They have to catch you first. Yes, the cops do have to catch you. They will catch you, though. We know that you don't run from the cops. We've seen enough police chases to know that's the fact. Brandy, welcome. Good to have you here. Hope your day is going great. How's your trial going? Where are you at in your trial? As you can see, we're in verdict watch. We're about 4 hours, almost 4 hours and 45 minutes into it. Brandy Churchwell is in the house. She is. It's exciting. It's never going to end. I live there now. This is my life. Brandy, that is awful. Is it still in prosecution's side of the testimony phase, the evidence phase? Plus the traffic helicopter. Oh. I feel like they're cheating when they give you a speeding ticket from the air. It's like, give me a fighting chance. At least, let me scan the horizon and think that I can outwit you as I come around a corner and slow down because the cop might have a radar gun out there. But when you just sneak up from behind from the air off to the side and then just clock me from the air, that is no fair. I think that's not sporting. It's not very sporting. It's unfair that way. I should be able to get off if the police officer's in the air. May walk around that day. Husband is off that day. It's going to be fantastic. I think it'll be busy there because I think it's free. I think you have to register for tickets, but it's free in Colonial Williamsburg that day. And that's spendy. If you're taking a family with a bunch of kids, it can cost a fair amount out of pocket to participate in that. And it's an amazing, amazing event. They do such a good job.
Call from
Johnny Strabler.
Hey, Johnny. Recovery Addict here. Good to hear from you this morning. How are you doing? I guess afternoon now.
I'm doing good.
15 minutes into the afternoon for me. Morning for you still, right?
Yeah. I have to get away from Goodman Law so it doesn't overbleed on the TV. So quit speeding.
Yeah.
Not only do the law enforcement officers go by radar, but to be radar trained, they also have to be visually trained, or they have to be able to do a visual estimate for testing. So it's not just based on the radar. Based on a few other, I can't tell you all the factors, but they actually test them visually, and those tests are held in the court on file. So the judges can look them up to make sure that they're current. And so let's just say the radar was jammed up. Did you take a visual estimate of the guy? Yeah, he was doing about 50 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. And a few other ways to do it. But the helicopter is a fun way to do it.
No. I'm on the escapee side. I'm trying to get away with speeding here. So, but I can use your information if I use it correctly. Then possibly, if the officer who did write the ticket was not current on his training, which I doubt is the case.
Correct.
They probably
you can ask that. Now, here's a couple tricks. Oh God, I shouldn't tell you those tricks.
No, please do. We're all sitting on the edge of our seats. Please let us know how to get out of a speeding ticket.
If the officer appears in court, if you get to that point,
He's supposed to bring his testing with him. It's supposed to, that way the judge can check it. So when he testifies, any good traffic officer would have that information with their visual and their radar exams and when they took them. The other thing you want to ask for is, when was the last time they calibrated the radar in the car? The officer is supposed to calibrate it at the beginning of his shift. A lot of the officers will also test it maybe once or twice during the shift, and that's done with tuning forks. And those are questions you can ask. Sometimes you get a guy who wrote a ticket. He might not be traffic trained, and he wouldn't know the answers to that, and you're going to beat the ticket with that one.
Yeah. Huh.
Don't use my name on that one. I gave you secret info. So there's a lot of ways. Now, I saw the other thing flashing up is the license plates.
Mm-hmm.
And I know not every state requires it, but those that do, you not only have to have it affixed to the front of the car, but it has to be wound with 2 bolts. Some people stick it in their dashboard, a few other things. We don't mind because it gives us probable cause to pull you over. And then
that
the
probable
game goes
cause.
from there.
I bet if you're going to be 100% honest with me, which I think you are, I bet 9 cars out of 10 that pass you could find probable cause to pull them over. Within 10,
I
15
get 11
seconds.
out of 10.
11 out of 10.
I get 11 out of 10 every time.
Okay.
It is very, very simple.
But I'm not talking about I couldn't
legit.
see a rearview mirror, and there was I've been pulled over with that one. There's no rearview mirror. Yes, there is, but that was the reason they stopped me, and then it proceeded from there. Even though I had a rearview mirror, you're saying that there's articulable, court supportable reasons to pull people over 11 out of 10 times.
Absolutely. You've got people that have, now, again, different states have different rules, but tinted windows,
right?
Depending what state you're in, that's an easy one. What do most people that do? They have something hanging from the mirror inside the car. That's illegal.
I do that.
Right. Actually, yeah, it's a big thing. Handicap placards. A lot of people will keep them hanging up in the car. And even the instructions on the placard say, do not drive with this hanging from your mirror.
Yeah.
So you've got, what you have is, it's called an obstructed view. Stickers on your car, there's only certain spots on your car where you put stickers on a window. Other than that, it's obstructing it. Simple ways to pull it over. In California, a lot of guys have a habit of switching their stickers, and they've got the month sticker on the wrong side and the year sticker on the opposite side. It's enough to pull them over. It is an infraction, and it's articulable. It's actually 5204 of the California Vehicle Code, and you can pull them over and contact them. The first thing you're going to ask for is their driver's license, registration, and insurance. Are they licensed? Do they have current insurance? So it builds up, the boulder going downhill builds up very, very quickly once you get to that point. And then, what are they doing in the car? And there's a million things that go after that.
You can do all the improper lane position, driving too slow, driving too fast,
correct.
Change of speed too quickly.
My favorite ticket of all time was a gentleman, I'll never forget him, on Sunset Boulevard and Horn, and the light was green, and he wasn't going. I'm behind him in a black and white, and I honked the horn, nothing. All of a sudden, the Kentucky Fried Chicken wing goes out the window. Then the light turns red,
and he goes, and
he drives through the red light. I was laughing so hard when I got to the front, I had to take a breath before I got his license. It was
yeah.
Like, you're going to get it for the green light and the red light.
Yep, and littering on top of that. So let's get all three. But
that's right.
That's funny, Johnny. Thank you so much. Goodman's outing you a little bit, saying she got pulled over and the officer called you to rat her.
Yes,
out.
Actually, that's very true. There's a few Goodman Law ones, but I love her, and I'm not going to rat them all out.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks, Johnny. Good to hear from you.
You too.
We'll see you. Bye. That's cool. Let's see. This man must be sick to his stomach, waiting for a verdict to come in. Scot Peterson must be just incredibly anxious about this. Someone had asked earlier today if I could explain some of my gear in the dead time, and while we're waiting for the verdict, let's see. Box 2 will be 4. There we go. I can do that a little bit if you want. Let's see. I see Katrina and Diet Coke Mama are saying we should have a meetup. That's funny. I happen to know you're fairly close to each other. The verdict watch is longer than I thought it would take. Yes, we're over 4 hours. And we thought we had like under our first, in our poll we did, we said it was going to be same day, which was going to be less than 2 hours. And then we had 2 to 4 hours for the next window. We had probably 30 or so percent thinking that. And then the other 30 were saying that it would be 4 to 8, which would still put it today. We do have to take lunch at 12:30, so we have 8 minutes. In 8 minutes, we'll stop the timer for an hour and 15 minutes. What time is it there? Are they eating or anything there? Julie, they're actually going to be excused at 12:30. The judge is going to say, out you go, go get lunch and be back here by 1:45. So they're not under sequestration. They're not required to stay there at the courthouse. They're not staying the night there. But they also are not just being held during the day. I was surprised. I would think that the court would at least bring in lunch for them. But it sounds like they're a little cheap that way and saying you have to buy your own. Katrina says, let's go grab a Diet Coke to Diet Coke one. That's awesome. If you guys do that, we need a picture. You'll need to send a picture in, just like Matthew and Thomas did when they met up. And we've had a couple other people do that as well. Are you using Live View Solo? Yes, I am, Goodman Law. Can you hand me my Live View Solo up there? But I'm not using it this very moment. So I have this right here, ready to go. So it has a HDMI input right here. It currently has 2 modems attached, but I have 2 more modems as well for a total of 4, and then it can connect to Wi-Fi as well as if there's available Cat 5, like an internet connection. It's hard to see. Sorry, it's so bright. But then I just hit one button, it'll go live. It's a little bit tricky to set up. I wish it was just a one button and then it would work. But I actually have to get online and program it. I turn this on and then I get online to the website and program it to say what the live stream would be set up as. Everything from the profile picture to the time that it's going to go live. And then when I hit the button to go live, it will just fill that. So I have to make the placeholder first, and then I can go live. It's not as easy as just any time I want, I can hit a button and be live, which I wish it was. Anyway, so that's some of the hardware. The rest of the hardware we have, it's Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, Mrs. R.A. What are we going to do for Taco Tuesday? Eat a salad? Yum. Not a taco salad? The rest of the equipment, all of this, I could actually run my live stream from or through the live view. All I would have to do is take the output from the switcher, which is what controls what you see on the screen. Everything up there on the screen up here is switcher output. So I can control that to be, whatever you want. I can put myself up there, or whatever I'm looking at can be up there. But I can take that output and send it straight to the live view, and then send that straight to YouTube. So I can use all this equipment and YouTube in case my internet went down here, which is fiber, so I hope it doesn't. But I could use it that way. Let's see. 5 more minutes. We're going to take a break. We're going to take lunch with them. Then we'll be back after lunch and hopefully have a verdict, honestly. I was fortunate to acquire one. Are they user-friendly? Yes, they are fairly user-friendly. It took a little bit to configure the modems. And honestly, they're GUI, the graphical user interface for their website, for the Live View Solos are not as... It's like the redheaded stepchild of the company. They do a lot of very high-end stuff, like devices like that run like $30,000. They have 8 to 12 modems built in, and do 4 4K video simultaneously with audio, feedback, all sorts of stuff. So that's their main stuff, and this is their prosumer models. And they don't do as much support that way, but they are pretty good. It's mostly email support, and they're pretty quick. So it took about a day to get set up. The downside is it's $600 a month for data if you get the 4 modems. But I got the modems that are agnostic, so they'll jump from AT&T to Verizon to US Cellular to T-Mobile, and just whoever has the better signal at the moment, they just become that modem. So it's like having a contract with all the providers and just picking and choosing the best at any given time. So it's really good. Jenny GA says, love this channel for trials and the chat. It's fun. If there are any RA addicts in the Henderson, North Carolina area, it'll be a lot of fun to get together and watch some of the trial, some trial sometime. That would be fun to do a get together some point at a trial at a courthouse in Henderson. Mrs. RA is nodding vigorously. Hang on.
You probably know this, but Hendersonville has the cutest little ferry, like a park where they have all these tiny little ferry setups, and they also have a model train museum. And so I'm kicking around that idea to go there as a family. So maybe.
So there you go. There's a plug for Hendersonville from Mrs. RA. It sounds like that might be in the future for us. Perpetual Autumn. I don't know if there's a mandatory sentence in this case. I don't think so. But either way, it's going to be decided by the judge, not by the jury. I see a couple of you are talking about the explosion that was heard in northern Utah. The last I heard, it was a test detonation, which basically means a bomb. Test detonation. It sounds good, like we meant to do that, but really, it could have been an accident. They're like, oh, it was just a test. Mrs. RA has the perfect radio voice. You should listen to her read a book. I wish the copyright laws didn't exist, so she could just read books to you, because you guys would leave my channel in a heartbeat and join hers and just listen to books all day long, and it would be heaven. She reads so well, and she does great voices and everything. The kids love it. You're welcome for shepherd's pie. I'll make extra. Everyone head to Katrina's house this afternoon. Shepherd's pie. Sounds great. Okay, we are 1 minute away. We're going to stop the timer in 1 minute, and that's when the jury goes to lunch. Now, the judge has told us, let me just show you here. The judge has told us that they're not going to interrupt the jury. They're not going to bring them into the courtroom to excuse them for lunch. So we don't expect anything to happen in the courtroom at lunchtime, but we'll know that they're going to go to lunch, and we'll take lunch with them. So no verdict before lunch unless they come in the next 30 seconds, which I doubt they will. Can the judge override the jury's decision if he doesn't agree with it? Yes, if a motion is made to that extent. And Kurt from Uncivil Law was talking about that as well. I forget the 4-letter acronym. Here we go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we've stopped the timer. As it is 12:30 right now, the jury should have stopped deliberating. We need to get Mrs. RA a big mic and a throne. It's going to happen. There were 2 jury questions, Debbie. Both questions had to do with the jury wanting to see the big exhibits, the big poster boards, all the exhibits that were used during trial. And the judge said no, they were not admitted as evidence, even though they were used as exhibits. So you don't get them. The jury has all the evidence back there with them. It sounds like we actually heard that some of the evidence, some of the video evidence that the jury has is password protected. And this is probably going to be video that is of the shootings. This is very graphic. It's probably the nature of the video that was not shown in court, at least not to us. So if the jury wants to see that, again, they might try to open it, and they aren't able to. They'll have to go to the judge and say, hey, we want to see this, and then there's a password, and they're going to give them the password at that point. But the jury has all the evidence with them, and they're able to look at anything they want there. They just can't look at those poster boards, which would probably be useful since they were used so much during court. But the jury did not, the counsel and the prosecution and the defense did not admit to those as evidence. I need a co-host. I do, but she is so busy with homeschool. Today is Ticket Tuesday, as we do during the summer. We have these different events. Monday is Build It Monday. Tuesday is Ticket Tuesday, and so today they're doing a play. I think they're watching Tangled. I think they're doing a play. They're doing Tangled, so that she prints out these tickets, and there are all sorts of treats and everything. They have a blast. Every day of the week is something new during the summer. Okay, let's go ahead and take lunch. Is that going to be all right? I can. I would rather close down this one and open a new one. I realize that it's more convenient to leave this window open, but if we close this down and open up a new one, it helps with a couple things. One of which is every time that there's a verdict that comes in, I get a copyright claim, and I'd rather they not take everything from all day. So it would be financially beneficial to me if we broke the video up at lunchtime. So if that's all right, we'll go ahead and do that. I'll open up the chat for the placeholder for the verdict watch that's going to continue after lunch in about an hour, in just a couple minutes. And once again, we'll give away the internet at the beginning as well. All right, that is all. We've done all the birthdays. We've done all the songs. We've done everything that way. We'll see you on the flip side, says Nurgle Eric, good to see you here. Let's see. I think I answered all the questions. I think we're good. All right. Hopefully you're able to join us after lunch. Hopefully we have a great lunch, and it includes tacos because it is Taco Tuesday. That's appropriate. But if it doesn't, either way, tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again, which is in 1 hour. 1 hour we'll be live. The jury will start deliberating again at 1:45. We're already almost 5 hours into the deliberation. Only 2 questions asked so far and no sign of an end. I realize all the verdict forms the judge gave the jury said that they found the verdict on this day of June, which means being June 27th, they have just a couple days to reach a verdict. It could take longer. I hope not. I think it'll happen today, but he's the guy. You guys are awesome. Thanks for the wonderful calls. It was great to hear from all of you, lawyers and otherwise. I appreciate that. We'll be back after lunch to continue this. I think we'll have some more action. I think we're getting close. Anyway, I've got my fingers crossed. We'll see you guys in a little bit after lunch. Bye.
I was kicked back, taking it easy.
Is that correct?